I am alive. I was gonna say I'm
Alive.
amazing, but I'm like, I'm alive. I can't ask for much more right now, I
True that,
suppose.
true that, true that.
How about you?
I'm doing pretty good. I had a good birthday and spent time with the family for the past couple of days, so I can't complain either.
Okay. Sounds pretty awesome. Yeah, my birthday isn't for a while, so
When is your birthday?
um April 4th.
Almost April Fools.
Yeah, I fooled my mom and came out
Ah,
April
that's
4th
funny.
instead. Yeah, it was scheduled for April 1st.
Yeah. So what are you up to today?
But yeah. Honestly, I don't know, I woke up 5:30, so
PM?
I was a little, yeah, so I've been a little delirious.
Mm.
In all fairness, I went to bed 7 in the morning,
Why?
so that's huh?
Why?
Because I don't know, I'm fucking um no, just in general, do have insomnia, so I do have difficulty falling asleep in general.
Hmm.
So it's just like I'll be up doing bullshit.
I
Yeah.
feel you, I feel you. So,
I'm trying to get out of that habit.
I mean, sometimes you can't, it's not really your fault.
Yeah, and I mean, if I get into like a rhythm, like job, it's so weird how we take certain things for granted, like school,
Hmm.
jobs, and stuff like that.
Hmm.
If you're left to your own device, your body just goes all over the place. But usually, like when I'm working, my I my sleep pattern kind of shifts back into what it needs to be.
Hmm.
Even though I hate early mornings. That's why I kind of prefer working for myself.
Yeah.
Cause yeah, early morning.
So,
I prefer having
wh
anyway.
where do you work right now?
Um, for myself, I'm job hunting.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, I'm job hunting. I should have a pretty interesting prospect coming Monday,
Hmm.
where I'll be teaching
Hmm.
tutoring online.
Hmm.
So the advantage of not having to interact with children be very germsy.
Ah.
Um, and, and I still get to like it'll be on whatever program I choose to teach.
Hmm.
So I'm thinking of um book creations, publishing,
Hmm.
how to be a creative writer, and possibly anime.
Okay, we're gonna get into that soon too.
Mm-hmm.
So for the most
Yep.
part, I guess before people start coming in, we could just talk about some background history. So where are you from?
I am originally I'll say I'm from Jamaica,
Hmm.
but I was born in the Virgin Islands, so St. Thomas. I was born in
Oh.
St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin
Hmm.
Islands. Um, my mom spent 3 months there and was like, "Nah, I can't do this anymore," and went back to Jamaica.
Mm-mm.
So I grew up in Jamaica
Mm.
um, until I was 7,
Nice.
and so graduated from high school. Was about to go to university,
Hmm.
and then my grandfather was like, who lives in the Virgin Islands, was like, "Hey, if you come here, I'll give you an opportunity to fly planes."
Oh, really?
So I was like, "Yeah." So I was like, "Okay, yeah, sure, I'd love to fly planes." So I came to the Virgin Islands, and I was flying for a bit. And so yeah, I'm from so I lived in the Virgin Islands for 11 years.
Okay, okay, cool.
So I'm half, I guess, half and half,
Gotcha,
half
gotcha.
Jamaican, half
Hey, Peak, how you
Virgin
doing?
Islander.
Cool, cool. So where are you now?
Right now, I am in Austin, Texas, with my cousin.
Mm.
Yeah.
How's that transition
Um,
working out for you?
it's pretty interesting. I had the option to either move to Austin. I was never a big fan of the U.S.
Hmm.
It's funny, like most of my Jamaican friends are like, oh, they would literally give an arm and a leg to get a visa to be able to come here.
Mm-hmm.
And because I was born in the Virgin Islands, I had the privilege the whole time to come to the US, and I just never liked the
Thanks for the
US.
bits.
I never wanted to move here.
Mm-hmm.
Huh?
Now I was thanking chat there. You donated some bits.
Yeah, I never wanted. Oh, hey. Um, yeah, I never wanted to be in the US, but I had the option to either come here or move to Kenya.
Mm-hmm.
Because my mom had some opportunities that she wanted to extend to me. But I was like, I wanted to try and see at least what was in Austin first.
Mm-hmm.
Before I was like, let me leave the entire Western Hemisphere and move to the East. Um, I decided to try it here
Mm-hmm.
first, and I ended up really liking it
Okay.
a lot. So, yeah, also, I mean, it's the U.S., so it has American challenges.
Yeah.
Everybody knows America's challenges.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but overall, I like it a lot.
So is the Kenya option still an option for you?
It's a good ass question.
I know.
I'm not possibly, yeah, possibly. I'm not 100% sure. My mom, she lives in Ghana now.
Okay.
Um, we're all originally from Jamaica, but she, the family, Jamaicans always move all over.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So she's in Ghana. I don't know. Maybe it's possible. I know I can always move to Africa,
Gotcha.
so I don't know.
Have you been there before?
So yeah. I've been to South Africa, which is where she originally lived.
Mm-hmm.
She is in South Africa for a bunch of years, and so I've been to South Africa. I've been to Mozambique. I've been to Swaziland. I've been to Zambia, and I've been to Zanzibar. And technically, I've been to, Tanzania, but I've only been to the airport in Tanzania.
Just sounds pretty
You
good.
need to take, yeah, you need to take a flight from Tanzania to get to Zanzibar.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Hmm.
So what is it like there? Is it like what you see normally in like media, or is it actually different from that?
It's it's so much more.
Mm-hmm.
um, my personal favorite place is South Africa. I friggin' love South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
Um, South Africa to me is like a mixture of.
Hey, Charlie.
It's so huge. People don't. I mean, a lot of people don't appreciate just how massive Africa is in general. And just to give you perspective, South Africa is the ninth largest African country. There are 54 African countries in all.
Mm-hmm.
So South Africa is the ninth. So
Hmm.
it's not even like, yeah, it's
Wow.
barely like, top 10.
Gotcha.
The entire population of the world, all eight or how much people have now? Yeah, 8 billion people could fit, or 7 billion people could fit inside of South Africa,
Mm-hmm.
all 7 billion, and it would still be less crowded than Japan is.
Wow.
Yeah. There's just so many people there. I mean the land space is just so huge.
Mm-hmm.
You could fit the entire population of the world there, and it's still only the ninth largest country in Africa.
Gotcha.
Um so you go there and you see the stuff you see on TV with the savannas and the animals
Mm-hmm.
and the Serengeti or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
the really cool stuff like that. But then you also will see like countryside with farms and barns and ranches and stuff like that. And then you'll go to the city and it's like Times Square
Mm-hmm.
on steroids.
Mm-hmm.
Like to me, I definitely prefer like Gauteng in South Africa to Times Square because it's Times Square to me is like really in your face and like
Mm-hmm.
all these bright lights, but it's still New York
Yeah.
with the New York attitude, and everyone's kind of crazy and everyone's just constantly going at 100 miles per hour. And yeah, I mean, people say like New Yorkers are rude, and they're kind of rude, It's just, I mean, a New Yorker will say, no, we just have a different type of attitude, which is fine.
Hmm.
You have a different type of attitude. Most of the world sees it as
Yeah.
rude. But in South Africa, you'll see the same kind of flashing lights and
Yeah.
stuff, but the people there are just like so cool. Um,
Mm.
they'll I remember one time like I'll just be like taking pictures and then like just people just like stand and see notice me taking pictures and just start posing, and then you strike up a conversation,
Hmm. Hmm.
and then you say your pleasantries, and then you leave, and this people are just like that cool. um so it definitely is a place I would definitely encourage a lot of. I think every black person go to South Africa
Yeah.
just to see it, just to um see it. Like every other place, it has its problems also.
Definitely.
Um, so I mean, I like no place to me is
Yeah.
perfect.
Exactly.
Um, Possibly except Singapore, but but no place is perfect. But yeah, South Africa is super.
Somebody in
Um,
chat said that you selling them on going to South Africa.
who going to South Africa?
Mino says that you're making him feel like he should be going to South Africa.
Yeah, man, you definitely should go to South Africa. South Africa is really cool. I love it. I love it a lot.
Oh.
It's almost like the Wakanda of Africa.
It's Fionn, by the way.
Um, yeah, man, yeah, you definitely should visit. But also, like for me, as I said, I've been to like Zambia. Zambia was super cool as well. It reminded me a lot of Jamaica,
Mhm.
except it has elephants. um, Zanzibar was also reminded me a lot of Jamaica, except it's Muslim.
Mm.
But yeah, like every African country, I feel has something really cool to offer that people should definitely visit the continent.
Gotcha.
Yeah, man.
So,
Um, have you been able
mm, mm,
to
mm,
travel?
mm, mm. I've barely been
But
anywhere.
you have traveled. You have traveled.
I've been to
Where else have you been outside of the U.S.?
Dominica, where my family's from. I've been to St. Martin, where I was born. I've been to
Mm.
Montserrat, Guadeloupe. I think that's it. And then St. Thomas, St. Croix, St. John, Florida, and Atlanta. And that's it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So the Caribbean and the U.S. and North America.
Hmm. Yes,
I've
Maryland
been
soon.
to. I've wanted one of my fantasies was to like gather up like three of my closest friends or just three really cool people
Hmm.
and just like island hop.
Yeah.
Just spend like a week just going from island to island and just like seeing what cool stuff was in each island.
Yeah. Probably even like a Caribbean
So
cruise would be
hopefully,
good to do that too.
yeah, cruises would be cool too,
Hmm.
and cheaper, honestly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, fiance that you should be the
um,
pilot on the island hopping.
yeah, that's what I was saying.
Oh,
Yeah, definitely, that's one of my fantasies.
so as
So
a pilot,
my license has long expired, but
oh,
if I get it renewed and
mhm.
stuff like that, I'm definitely gonna do that.
So what can you fly?
I was registered to fly land, single engine, and multi-engine plane.
So you could fly like a commercial plane?
Piston engine planes, I should
Okay,
use.
okay, okay.
So most people when they think of like when they say the word commercial,
Hmm.
it's kind of a what's the word, misnomer.
Hmm.
Um, because in the aviation world, every plane can be a commercial plane because commercial mean that you can earn money from it.
Okay.
Um, and so
I should use like models then.
yeah, so when you say commercial, you're probably thinking like what, American
Yeah,
Airlines
like
and
a
stuff like
Boeing
that.
something like that. 750,
Yeah.
yeah.
So those are jet. Yeah, those are classified as jet
Mm,
engine planes.
mm-hmm,
And so no, I'm not registered for jet planes. I'm registered for piston engine planes.
mm-hmm,
Um, so that would be like the King Air, the Piper Aztec, the Cessna 172s. The smaller, they usually hold like
12 people.
up to 12, yeah, 12
Mm,
to something 20 people.
yeah. So can you fly a seaplane?
No, as I said, so I'm registered for a
Land. Okay,
land
okay,
plane.
okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So land engine, land engine, single engine and multi-engine.
So now I have to tell
Um,
everybody that I'm sorry for lying to them because I told them that you were an
well,
artist, a writer, and a game developer. I forgot to add pilot, world traveler, all these things.
I have too many goddamn, yeah, too many goddamn titles. So I just say, you know what, I'm just Chris.
hmm Yeah. So that's
But yeah, no, yeah, there's so much I've kind of done over the years that
yeah.
I'm kind of.
What we're gonna do now is I'm gonna show them the game that you made. It's on YouTube,
Oh,
if that's
okay.
okay.
Yeah, man.
I'll show them what you're about. So this is All Star Twerkers. Here we go.
Hey, are you screen sharing?
It's on Twitch.
Mm. Should I then sign on to
Wait,
it?
this one. I gotta start over. All right.
What?
They say the game is wild. Oh man.
Go download it. I don't care. Go download it and leave a review.
He says he digs it. All right, so the first thing we talked about was your background, but now we're gonna talk about the things that you do in detail. So you wear many hats. So does that mean it's more comfortable for you to do stuff like making a game because now you can draw, so you can draw your own characters, you could design the game, and you could write the script. So does that make it feel easier for you to do stuff like that? That you have all these hats that you wear?
um, it doesn't. No, it doesn't make it easy at all. Cause if if I was like absolutely like, oh, I can't do this, then I would have just given it to somebody else. I would have found the money.
Mm,
But like with in entrepreneurship,
hmm
you're going to always be wearing multiple hats. So
hmm
it doesn't matter
hmm
what you how how professional or whatever. If something needs to get done, it just needs to get done. If you want whatever you want in life, if you want it to get done, you just have to find a way to get it done.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, there is a sense of relief
hmm
that, oh, if I need an artist and I don't have one right now, then I can fill in those gaps. If I need a
hmm
sound engineer and I don't have that now, I can fill in those gaps.
hmm
But it also puts extra pressure of um oh, I wanted to focus on this one thing because yeah, I wanted to focus on just drawing characters and just creating stages, which is fun for me.
hmm
um, but no, like what happened with the game, we lost our marketing person, the person who
Oh.
was like, "Oh, I'm going to handle all the marketing aspects. You don't have to worry about that." Unfortunately, that person had to leave,
hmm
and so now it put all the marketing pressure on me.
Mm-hmm.
So now instead of now just being able to focus on making sure that all the animation and all the drawings are the best that they could possibly be, I have to divide my attention now between these multiple,
Gotcha.
and that can sometimes mean that inevitably one or the other thing is going to suffer in some way.
Mm-hmm. So talk about the the business behind making a game. Why did you start making this game?
Um, I'll start Torker specifically.
Yes, this game.
Because I remember watching on CNN once.
Mm-hmm.
This is when the twerking was like, oh, the big thing. Every video it felt on Facebook was a twerking video. I personally never shared any of that because that's just not my thing really.
Yeah.
But I did see that it was gaining huge popularity. And
Mm-hmm.
then I saw on CNN, they were like, oh, Miley Cyrus came out with this new dance. What is this twerking thing? And I was like, Miley, Miley Cyrus didn't invent twerking.
No.
That's ridiculous. And so I was like, well, instead of complaining that, oh, these white people just keep, these culture vultures just keep taking our stuff,
Mm-hmm.
um, I just decided, wouldn't it be cool to just make something, that is ours, that is about twerking,
Mm-hmm.
that I can say we made it, black people made it.
Yeah.
Um, and so it was just like a very simple app idea in my head. It was just going to be like a black character just twerking, and
Mm-hmm.
you could even do a lot of stuff. I just thought it would just be funny. To me, I thought the idea was funny,
Mm-hmm.
to just have someone on your phone twerking.
Yeah.
And then I approached a bunch of programmers and a bunch of people, and I did the art myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I had my artist. I have a friend that I work with too, and we came up with the concept.
Mm-hmm.
And after the third programmer kind of had to back out for whatever reason,
Mm-hmm.
I finally went to my cousin
Yes.
and I was like, KK, I have this idea, and you're like my last hope because I don't know any programmers and I don't know how to code myself.
Mm-hmm.
Can you like help me with this? And he was like, yeah, sure. And he liked the idea.
Mm-hmm.
He thought that it could be something that could be profitable,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess he didn't have any stuff on his own.
Gotcha.
He was working at EA. So just to clarify, my cousin, he's a coder.
Mm-hmm.
He's worked for EA. He did the physics and he worked on the physics engine for Madden 2013 and
Ooh.
2014.
Okay, okay.
He's worked with numerous game companies.
Mm-hmm.
So when I say he's legit, he is legit.
Yeah.
And that's why I didn't approach him in the first place because I just thought he would be too busy
Yeah, I feel you.
for little old me who is approaching him with this indie idea.
Mm-hmm.
But he liked it, and luckily I had my own stuff prepared already. So it's not like I was going to him with just, oh, I have an idea in my head. I personally, as an artist, I kind of hate when people approach me, they'll be like, "Oh, I have this really cool idea in my head." I'm like, "Okay, that means literally nothing to
Oh,
me."
you're throwing shade at me.
Um,
Okay, I understand.
no, no, usually usually when people say that,
Yeah.
they'll be like, "Oh, can you do this idea, bring this idea to life
Mm-hmm.
for free?"
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, no, no, I'm not
Oh, for
doing
free.
this with you.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Um. So, yeah. Luckily, I had the idea already like laid out, and then KK, who is a game designer,
Mm-hmm.
also was like, "Hey, let's make this actually add game elements to this. Let's make it a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, all right, cool.
Think will make us. Yeah.
Um, and that's kind of how the first game came off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
It took us like a year and a half because again, I didn't know what I was doing.
Yeah.
I was only an artist as at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, um, I needed an animator,
Yeah.
and so I approached an animator and I paid him a little money. And unfortunately, it wasn't a whole lot of money, but it was still enough to get the animation off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, all right, let me teach you because yeah, I have to he had to move on to another project.
Mm-hmm.
So he was like, let me teach you how to animate using the software that you suggested.
Mm-hmm.
And he taught me how to animate using that software. And then I ended up being the animator for the program
Gotcha.
for the game
Mm-hmm.
and learning how to do that was one of the hats I had to take on. So I was now not only the artist, but I was now the animator. And then my cousin was like, "Oh, because at the time again, I didn't know anything about making games. I was like, oh, you just clickety clack on your computer,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then you make me a game."
Yeah.
And my cousin was like, "Nah,
Yes.
that's not how it works." And he was like, if you want anything in this game, you have to design it and you have to make it.
Yeah.
And so that's where I was had to learn game design.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, okay, if you want a button in the game, you need to draw that button.
Wow.
If you want um if you want that button to have multiple states when you click it,
Mm-hmm.
you need to draw each individual state.
Wow.
Um yeah, if there he was like if there's anything you want in the game, you have to build that yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't just appear out of nowhere.
That's interesting. So every
Yeah,
piece of
and
this game is something you have to draw yourself, every separate thing.
exactly.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, you could, in theory, steal assets,
Mm-hmm.
but then people will there's going to be someone who's like, oh, wait, that's the asset
Mm-hmm.
from
Mm-hmm.
this game.
Mm-hmm.
And so people always kind of notice when you've taken shortcuts like that.
But generic things like letters and arrows are not really, it doesn't really matter, right?
No, no, you use fonts, you use different fonts.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that's also something you have to
Mm-hmm.
learn in you have to learn that in typography and in design because, for example, in the first game and like my first book,
Uh-huh.
those two tie in.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh, I want to be different. I don't want to do what everyone else is doing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I found like these really wacky typos, type fonts that I thought were really cool and creative,
Uh-huh.
and then nobody could read them.
Mm-hmm. Oh, wow.
And people kept complaining that, oh wait, this font is crap because I can barely read it
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that. So you learn very quickly what works, what doesn't work, why people use certain fonts, why they don't use certain fonts, what conveys some certain messages and certain emotions and stuff like that.
So somebody asked if you can make a RPG next. Is that something you think you can do?
Um, I mean, yeah, I can make any game if I wanted to.
Okay, Mr. Big Shot.
Design, but that's just design.
Uh-huh.
That's like asking me, can I draw whatever?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can draw it. It's just how much time and how much effort you need.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha, gotcha. So I'm,
And as I said, for me, I'm not a coder,
yeah.
so I don't code. So I don't do the code for the games. I do the design, the
Mm,
art animation,
gotcha.
stuff like that.
So you do like basically the top layer stuff, and somebody
Yeah,
else will do the behind the like the real nitty-gritty of actually making things work.
yeah. So
Okay.
my cousin makes the game work.
Mm-hmm.
I make it look pretty.
Good, good. I understand. S-
Yeah.
So we're watching the video
So
now on stream, and I see you have different races of people and different girls here. How did you, first of all, why did you choose to include all races? And secondly, how did you get that jiggle? Who did you study to get that jiggle?
who did I study? So in my
And you
research,
got guys in there too?
yeah, yeah, there's all
All
sorts of
inclusive.
different
Okay.
races.
Jiggle. Where you get a jiggle from?
Yeah.
Explain that jiggle to me.
So it's funny.
Mm-hmm.
Again, in my research, you end up because you think like, oh, it's an ass clapping.
Mm-hmm.
Um, all you have to do is just like imitate, just like your hands clapping, for example, right?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how I approached it initially. And the software I use, by the way, is called Spine.
It's fine.
The company is Esoteric.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, by the company Esoteric.
Okay.
Um, they have a feature that you can draw a 2D image
Mm-hmm.
and attach meshes and bones to it and then manipulate it as if it were a 3D object.
My son was just telling me about meshes.
So yeah, so a mesh, just think of like a wire mesh.
Mm-hmm.
So each individual, you can now move parts of the your 2D picture as if it were 3D,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
Um, so that's the software that I use
Mm-hmm.
to get the the putt to move. But so in my research, however,
Mm-hmm.
um, I had the daunting task of watching so many
Ah,
app clapping videos.
why is it daunting?
It's like, woe
Hey,
is
what's up?
me having to watch all these butts. Uh,
Somebody said that they just came back and the conversation has taken a different turn. Yeah, I mean, this is a game that he created, so he's talking about how he got the research for the jiggle.
yeah. Yes. So you start realizing that, oh, um butts don't clap the same way like your hands clap. It's
Hmm.
not like just this going over and
There's
over.
more physics to it.
There's actual
Hmm.
physics. There's physics going on with this thing. You have these two masses
Okay.
that are very gelatinous,
Hmm.
right?
Uh-huh.
And when they hit each other,
Hmm.
they compress.
Hmm.
And you're a physicist, right?
No, I'm not, but I took physics.
You took physics. The energy doesn't have any initial place to disperse,
Hmm.
so it hits, goes upwards, and then it disperses, and because of gravity,
Uh-huh.
falls back down.
Okay.
And so you kind of have it, interestingly, a kind of similar to how weather patterns work,
Mm,
where you have this circular motion going this way,
gotcha.
right?
Uh-huh.
It's all physics, dude. It's all physics.
That task was so daunting.
Like it's funny because I remember when I was in high school,
Mm-hmm.
right? I took physics
Uh-huh.
and I hated that subject so much
Why?
because I was like, how is any of this applicable to
Oh,
real
oh
life?
boy, little did you know.
And now literally, 15 years later, 15 years later, I'm studying the physics of how butts clap.
So, is there any noticeable like butts in here that you studied? Anybody that we would know?
Probably like Pinky, Victoria Cakes.
Okay. Yeah. Not that I
Everyone,
know who those people
oh,
are though.
not like who,
Not
right?
that I know who those people are. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but I like Pinky though. So,
Yeah. So it's weird because like again, you're watching you watch the videos at normal speed and you're like, oh yeah, whatever. But then you really is you for me
Mm-hmm.
having to slow it down to like
0.25.
half speed or
Mm-hmm.
quarter
Mm-hmm.
speed, and you're like,
Oh.
oh, this it actually doesn't move the way I thought it moved.
That's a good thing. Okay, chat, what you should do right now is when you're doing your thing, slow the video down to quarter speed and just enjoy it like that. Is it better that way or is it worse that way?
Oh, actually, yeah, go to the moon stage. If you unlock the moon stage, it is at half speed because you're on the moon
Now, I'm talking
already.
about watching a
So,
real video on like the hub or something and slowing the video down. Can you do that on the,
oh yeah,
yeah. Is that what you have to do?
yeah, on YouTube, yeah, I
Oh, you watched
slowed
it on
it down
YouTube.
to
Okay.
yeah. Where else? I'm not a
Okay,
pervert.
wait. Psycho, this is All-Star Twerkers. Oh no, yeah, the hub video, yeah. Watch a hub video in slow motion. That's what I was saying to do. So you watch YouTube videos.
Yeah. It was all on
Oh,
YouTube.
you didn't even watch the good stuff.
Um, Funny enough, on Pornhub, the quality wasn't that great.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little ironic.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, on YouTube, I guess because it's and also, granted, I will say like I looked all over,
Mm-hmm.
but the best videos that I found
Mm-hmm.
were on YouTube. Funny
Mm-hmm.
enough,
Mm-hmm.
um, and so yeah, and then YouTube has a feature that
Yeah,
you
you could
can
slow
slow
down.
it down to
Yeah.
water speed and stuff like that. Pornhub also has it, but again,
Mm-hmm.
the best videos that I found that I needed to, because you're like, oh yeah, it's not just watching people
Yeah.
twerk.
Mm-hmm.
There are things that as an animator I have to look out for.
Mm-hmm. You have to make it
So as much
realistic.
as we're joking about butts,
Yeah,
as
yeah,
much
yeah.
as we're joking about butts, there are actually things
Oh
that
no,
I
I
need
mean,
to like
yeah, there's all
look
kind of
out
like there's a girl that's going down into the squat position and then the shoulders are moving, the hands are moving. It's a lot.
yeah, because it's funny with animation, you learn that people when they move,
Mm-hmm.
in order to make things feel natural, you have to add mistakes because people don't move in a perfectly synchronized manner.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so it's weird when you're doing the animation. You have a initial you lay out how you want the poses to look,
Mm-hmm.
and then you start having to add like little imperfections into the animation
Gotcha.
so that it feels more natural.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yeah, those are all things that you kind of gain with experience,
Mm-hmm.
and doing research and stuff like that.
So this game is similar to, I guess, Dance Revolution, games like that, where you build up points the more perfect you are.
Yeah, so in this version worldwide, which is a sequel by
Mm-hmm.
the way,
Okay.
um yeah, the sequel, you gain money by swiping perfectly,
Mm-hmm.
and then you gain points by making it rain,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So the make it rain feature, you're actually spending money, but that's how you get your point.
Gotcha.
So, um, the more money you have, the more you can make it rain, right? And the
Mm-hmm.
more you can be a baller and stuff like that. So that's how you get your yeah, that's how you get your your scores and stuff like that.
Oh,
I do you what?
go ahead.
No, I was saying because you had mentioned that there were multiple races and people like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because yeah, like for me, one, it's called All Star Twerkers Worldwide, so we
Gotcha.
wanted to make sure that we represented as many different
Mm-hmm.
people and cultures as possible. Because grant it's weird.
Yeah.
Um, one, I didn't want it as much as I love just watching black women's work. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't want it to just be a game about watching women dance lewdly
Yeah.
in front of my phone. And it was a bit tongue in cheek, no pun intended.
Big Daddy Trump is
Um,
in the game.
yeah, exactly. I wanted it to be something that was a little funny. It
Mm,
was funny that you can laugh at.
yeah.
Um,
That's a good thing.
and be yeah, it's lighthearted. It's not a porn game.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
not
definitely.
yeah, it's not that's not the intent at all. It's something that yeah, we can laugh at. And you learn a little bit about twerking. You make sure that the main character is black because it is a black thing to me.
Uh-huh.
Um, you in the
Uh-huh.
game you do have a section that does explain the origins of twerking.
Uh-huh.
There is a question mark button that if you click it, it says, okay, this is the Louisiana, the origins is from Louisiana,
Mm-hmm.
originated from bounce music,
Ah.
but that also has its African and Caribbean
Mm-hmm.
roots and stuff like that. Um, but also, like for example, I realized that like said dancehall queen,
Mm-hmm.
in which is a competition in Jamaica, which is
Mm-hmm.
like dancehall dancing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the Japanese have won dancehall queen like multiple years in a row
I think
sometimes.
I remember seeing that
Um,
somewhere, yeah.
yeah, so it's this world is an international world,
Mm-hmm.
and I personally hate games where you're like it's just like a majority like white cast. Um,
Most RPGs
I'm
are like
like,
that.
no, you can, yeah.
Yeah.
And in this game, most if you divide it up,
Mm-hmm.
like three of the characters are black, so it is still slightly majority black,
Mm-hmm.
which is how I prefer it.
Yeah.
But it does represent like all over the place. And even the dance moves, it's not just twerking moves. It is heavily influenced
Mm-hmm.
by bounce dancing
What it
and
is.
bounce moves,
Uh-huh.
which is tied to twerking. There is a little bit of different cultures in there as well.
Fion said that's why he asked you to make an RPG game because he knew that you would do like more representation of different races in there. Because when you try and develop a character in an RPG, it's basically the same skin tones and the same hairstyles. There's no afros, there's no dreadlocks.
So annoying,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Um, well, that's kind of how Project A started which is the company that had started in the Virgin Islands.
Mm-hmm.
Initially, it was supposed to be to make games,
Mm-hmm.
um, and it was to the first idea that I have, which I'm still working on, was a game called Journey of Khan
Mm-hmm.
or Journey of Cabo, which I ended up switching because I went to again when I went to South Africa.
Uh-huh.
To me, Khan just sounded like a very international kind of there's a Khan everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it sounded very African to me
Uh-huh.
until I went to South Africa
Uh-huh.
and they were like, "Nah, that is a very Middle Eastern
I was thinking it was
term."
more Northern European naming actually.
Yeah, so they were like, "No, it's actually most like truly African names
Mm-hmm.
tend to end with vowels
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
um than like a consonant."
That's pretty good that
So
you
I was
got
like,
to
"All right,
get to like the source of what you're looking for. You know what I'm saying? Like you went to Africa
yeah,
where they could
exactly."
tell you, well, this is not really African per se. This is, and then that gives you more ideas of what you can use, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And kind of, I guess, to divert a little bit to that,
Mm-hmm.
because like in the story, it's about the story is about this man, from this Maasai. He is Maasai,
Mm-hmm.
which is a African tribe in Kenya and Tanzania.
Mm-hmm.
They exist in both countries.
Mm-hmm.
The story technically exists in Kenya though, like on the border of Kenya and Tanzania.
Uh-huh.
But it's in ancient Africa. A man has his wife kidnapped by this demigod,
Mm-hmm.
and so he ventures all across Africa in order to gain
Mm.
the four elements that he needs to gather power to. demigod, right?
Mm-hmm.
People are like, oh, that sounds a little bit like the last Airbender. It's not quite, but
Mm-hmm.
there are elements because he has to gather the four elements:
Mm-hmm.
animal, plant, water, and fire.
Uh-huh.
So two of them aren't in the last Airbender, but it's a similar-ish, whatever.
So
Um,
the thing about that is that nothing in this world is ever going to be unique. There's always going to be
yeah,
something
exactly.
similar to what you're doing, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, which I am completely fine with.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so with that, he goes across Africa, and this is ancient Africa. This is like 2000, at least 2000 BC. It takes place.
Mm-hmm.
So this was before the Europeans invaded Africa. This is before the Asians
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
invaded Africa.
Mm-hmm.
The Asians would have been like the Middle Eastern people
Mm-hmm.
um, invaded invaded Africa. So it's a like purely I wanted to create a purely African story
Mm-hmm.
that did not have any European or Middle Eastern influence on it,
I have a question.
which is hard as hell. Yeah.
When you're developing like the background and the lore, how easy it is to get lost in the lore of like what you're trying to learn?
It's super easy to get kind of lost in it, but unfortunately,
Mm-hmm.
because like me, I want to not only do I want to create a unique story,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to make it as kind of historically accurate
Accurate.
as
Uh-huh.
possible.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And the problem with African mythology is that a lot of it was kind of deliberately erased.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And so doing research for ancient Africa, like
Mm-hmm.
ancient Africa, is very
So what have you
um
found, or what is there lack of?
like just things like, oh, how did this society, how did the city look?
Mm-hmm.
Um, what was funny enough, funny enough, I wanted to like find out how did ancient Africans make their clothes.
Mm-hmm.
Um, if it was in 2000 BC, obviously they didn't have things like silk.
Yeah.
So silk isn't African, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of the African patterns and stuff that you see in modern African fashion
Mm-hmm.
isn't actually African. It's Dutch.
Ah.
Not a lot of unfortunately, not a lot of black people know
Mm-hmm.
that the you have the kente art, which is like from Ghana and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of the African patterns were actually imported from like Denmark
Mm-hmm.
in the early like 1700s and stuff like that,
Mm.
and the Africans adapted it into their own fashion.
Mm-hmm.
um which nothing's wrong with
Not
that,
all.
but as I said, if I want it to be as accurate as possible,
Mm-hmm.
um, the stuff like that, I can't do stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like what would people eat? Um, if corn was introduced to to the region by the Middle Easterns
Mm-hmm.
in the 1100s, then I can't use that either.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
so little things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I try not to get too hung up
Yeah.
on it, because then after a while you start realizing that, oh yeah, there's some things that are really blocking my story. Um, and then you kind of go by, to me, sometimes I go by the rule of cool.
Yeah.
Uh, so like if something isn't 100% accurate,
Uh-huh.
but it's a really cool moment
You
or
keep
a
it in.
really cool story point,
Yeah.
I'll do it.
Yeah. 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 That's cool, man.
But yeah, researching ancient Africa is challenging, but not impossible.
Yeah.
So like there's a lot of, again, mythology, a
Mhm.
lot of gods that people don't realize in even that are worshipped today, which is funny because um I had gone to and I'm grateful that I got the opportunity to like go to South Africa and go to different African countries. I've actually met people from Maasai tribes and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I remember like one of the villains that I have in in the in the story,
Mm-hmm.
her name is Nyami Nyami,
Okay.
and in the story she is the god of water, but she's also the god of poison.
Mm.
So I have it that okay, then she's a god of like poisonous water, which would be like any liquid poison,
Yeah.
any like right.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I had her as purely evil, and then I went when I went to South Africa. I remember just walking down the marketplace, and someone was selling me a trinket,
Mm-hmm.
and he was like, "Oh, I was like, oh, what's this?" And he's like, "Oh, this is Nyami Nyami." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, this is the god of water and stuff like that." And he was breaking down what it meant in South Africa, and I was like, oh, "Okay,
Mm-hmm.
In South Africa, she isn't evil at
Mm.
all, actually, um, but she's more like neutral."
Gotcha.
And so I was like, "All right, she's still evil in my story, but um, you can add more nuance to her." And so you adjust the story um, according to like the personality
So was it
and
like
stuff
she
like that.
got possessed or she got turned somehow and then that's why she's evil? You have to add like a backstory to it?
No, in the story, like in my story, gods aren't necessarily good or evil.
Mm-hmm.
They're kind of, yeah, and most African gods
Mm-hmm.
are kind of just neutral in general anyway.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that some cause more mischief than others.
Mm-hmm.
And so for her, it's just that she does more because in the story, some gods have power, some gods want more power,
Mm-hmm.
and so they're they are approached by this other god who is like, "I will give you more power if you help me." And so they're like, "All right, I will help you."
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, his intentions are evil,
Okay, that makes sense.
so then their intentions become
Yeah, yeah,
evil.
yeah, yeah. Okay, cool, cool.
But it's not that I don't approach it like a duality of like gods and devils,
Mm-hmm.
where the devil is evil and God is good. It's like no, all the gods kind of had their own self-interest
Yeah.
like humans. It's just that some prefer to help humans because they like being worshipped, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Some do it just because they're like, yeah, it just feels good to do it. Some just don't care about humans because they're like, why should I care? I made this like this the god of the sun. He's like, I made the sun because I want to make the sun. If you're worshiping me for the sun, I don't care
Oh
because
wow.
I don't keep, I didn't make you
Mm-hmm.
because in African mythology there are a bunch of different gods that created. Some created water, like Jengu. She is a god of water, so she created water.
Mm-hmm.
The sun god created the sun and stars.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the Mbaba, she created um, plants and beer. Funny enough.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, there's literally a god of just creating beer. Um, and so they just do it because yeah, they do it because they like it.
Mm-hmm.
But there is also a god of humans, and in the story, the god of human, um, in my story at least, a little spoiler, is ironically evil.
Okay, so
Um,
I have a quick turn from that to something a
mhm.
little bit more, I guess,
What's that?
controversial, but we'll see. So,
Yeah, sure.
do you believe that all life originated in Africa?
All life?
Well, like
What do you
all,
mean by life?
like the human race.
Based on the evidence, if you believe in the out of Africa theory,
Mm-hmm.
then it would say that modern civilization or humans as we understand them today
Hmm.
would originate from Africa.
So would these gods
Um,
be the gods that we should be looking towards instead of the ones that are more Western and European?
traditional.
Yeah.
Me, full disclosure,
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
Mm-hmm.
I am atheist,
Okay.
so I don't believe in God's period. But I do feel, as a black person, that it gives you more power to believe in gods that look like you
Mm-hmm.
than gods that don't look like you.
That's fair.
And that's and so if your god is given to you by a foreigner, you will always look at that foreigner as being superior.
All right.
Because you can't worship someone that, you know, doesn't look like you and then expect that person to have your best interest at heart, to me.
Okay, cool.
But again, I am atheist,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't actually like believe that God exists necessarily.
Gotcha, gotcha. All right. Let's wrap up this gaming hat that you have. The last
Hmm.
question is okay, Fion says that you're wrong, but we'll talk about that in a second.
So of course,
So how do you do like quality analysis of your games? Who plays it?
um, we get just people. Luckily in Austin is a very gamer friendly um place,
Mm-hmm.
city.
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of people know this, but most of the major gaming companies
Mm-hmm.
are in Austin.
Mm, okay.
Actually, most of the major tech companies are in Austin. So your Googles, your Facebook, your Bethesda, your
Mm-hmm.
EA, all the major game companies, except I guess the Chinese ones,
Mm-hmm.
um, are in Austin.
All right,
So
cool.
because of that,
Mm-hmm.
you can the cool thing about Austin, which is what I really love, you can go to just any bar. You can be like walking down the road and you just find a bar that looks interesting and you're like, okay, let's just hang out in this bar.
Mm-hmm.
And then you just strike up a conversation with someone because Austin is that friendly.
Mm-hmm.
You just go into a bar and just strike up conversations, and then it turns out that that person is one of the marketing
Mm-hmm.
strategists for EA.
Yeah.
That actually happened to me multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
I have a friend called Mike, who's a really cool guy, and yeah, he was like, "Oh yeah, I work for EA," and then my cousin was like, "Hey, I work for EA. I used to work for EA," and then they struck up a conversation,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm just standing there like, "Oh,
I made a
okay,
game. Hi.
yeah." So because of that though, there's a lot of events. There are a lot of free events too that the city in Austin hosts that you'll just have like there's one where you just go to this bar
Mm-hmm.
and you drink and you literally just drink beer and showcase your game.
Mm. Cool.
And so like yeah, sometimes hundreds of people will go there because it's a just a cool event
Mm-hmm.
and hundreds of people go there and they allow you to bring your own PC and bring your own monitor,
Mm.
but sometimes you don't have to pay them or anything. They're just like, yeah, just come with your monitor and come with
That's really
your
good.
game, and you can showcase it. And that's what we do, and that's what we did.
Mm-hmm.
Um, where we tested ourselves, and but after a while, you don't your brain just kind of just mush over
Yeah, yeah,
everything.
yeah.
But when you get some fresh eyes to be like, oh, this doesn't work, or oh, this doesn't feel fun,
Mm-hmm.
or and usually to the cool thing is because it's awesome, it's nerds who love to play games,
Mm-hmm.
but you also have nerds who are actual game developers and
Yeah,
who
yeah,
are
yeah.
game designers,
Mm-hmm.
and they're like, oh, this doesn't feel intuitive,
Mm-hmm.
this doesn't feel fun, You may want to add instructions here because it's a little confusing
Mm.
and stuff like um and so after doing that over and over and over and over,
Mm-hmm.
you come to a point where you don't quite get, you'll never get to 100%,
Definitely.
but you're like, oh, okay, this, we feel like what we have now is a good enough product that we can launch.
Okay, that's good.
And then you launch it, and then a bunch of people are like, ah, this game is shit.
Mm-mm.
But no, actually, we do get reviews of being like, "Oh, I can't play the game. Like, what's happening?"
Mm-hmm.
And then you luckily Google and Apple has pretty intuitive system where you can look up, like, when someone leaves a review,
Mm-hmm.
I can look up what phone they use,
Oh.
what version of software they
Mm-hmm.
have, um, where in the world they are, what their internet connection is
Wow,
like,
wow, wow.
and then I can be like, oh, it's probably because, and there are some other coding stuff that KK can do that is like, oh, it crashes when he does XYZ,
Mm-hmm.
and then
Nice.
yeah,
That's cool.
yeah, yeah, the system is pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely pretty.
So they're selling my data.
I yeah.
Just kidding though, but yeah. That's a lot. I did not know it
But
was
like,
that extensive.
oh no, yeah, it gives. I can bring it up on my um phone right now because you on my computer you get an email,
Mm-hmm.
or at least for me because I'm registered with Google, I get an email and they'll be like, hey, so and so left a review. And I'm like, all right, cool, and I can look up the review, and then I can reply to that review, obviously being like, hey, I'm glad you liked the game, whatever, blah blah blah,
Yeah.
we're fixing this problem or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, it gives you a whole host
Nice.
of information.
Nice.
Yeah.
What's the name of your book?
And my
Mm-hmm.
books,
Okay,
um
wait, the your first book.
my first ever book was called Lume, Lumeh, and it's about a lion who is very cowardly, and so he doesn't want to be afraid anymore, and he hears about this magical object that will give him courage,
Mm-hmm.
and so he sets off all across Africa with the hopes of finding this magical object things will give him courage.
And that was on Amazon.
Yeah, it's on Amazon. It's on Amazon now. As I think it's a Kindle version. I ran out of physical copies myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to get um physical copies back because I wanted to ship. Oh, you someone just left a review.
I don't know what. All Star Turkers?
Um, yeah.
Yeah, my.
Damn it, Fayon. So, because I'm like in the middle of talking and then I get the notification. I'm like, what is that? I see you. I see you. um, but yeah, no, my first book was called Lume, and yeah, I wanted to get it in Jamaica.
Mm-hmm.
'Cause actually, when I'd gone back home to Jamaica and I carried a few of the books with me,
Mm-hmm.
and I went to the bookstores there because luckily Jamaica, unlike the Virgin Islands, unfortunately, Jamaica is very book they're very book friendly. Um, you go to the bookstore, there are two major bookstores
Mm-hmm.
that are both local. They're both local companies,
Mm-hmm.
but they are like um they each have like 14 branches across the island and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. So there's no chance of them going out to business.
Yeah.
And actually, how Jamaica kind of structures its education,
Mm-hmm.
like if you want textbooks, you have to go to the bookstore to get those textbooks that you need um, for your school.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like the Virgin Islands, from what I've seen, they give you the
Mm-hmm.
books of what you need in school,
Yeah.
which to me isn't isn't great.
Mhm.
But I'm not here to judge.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
It does give you the mentality that government is here to just give you everything.
Mm.
And I don't want, because then you get the mentality that, oh, books don't have value, they're just things that people give you.
Oh,
It's like, no, you
that's a
have to
good
go buy
take on
your
it.
own book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Because yeah, I remember when I was trying to sell my books in the Virgin Islands. And disclaimer, I did have so many supportive people,
Mm-hmm.
um, who were willing to buy my books, but I also had a lot of people who were like, "Oh, oh, is this a government program?" And just they would just take up books and just walk away with it. They wouldn't even
Wow.
see me sometimes. They wouldn't even see me. They would just take up my book and start walking away with it. And I'm
Oh
like,
my
"Hello,
goodness.
no, those books aren't free. They're my books. You have to pay for them."
That's crazy. But that's the same thing
And
you
they're
just
like,
said.
"Oh,
Like the book is just there, there's no value to it. So they
yeah,
could just take
exactly."
it.
To them, it's just a thing.
Mm-hmm.
They don't see the months and months of work that you put into it to draw it and to come up with it and all of
Mm-hmm.
that. But anyway, so in Jamaica though, I went to the bookstore
Mm-hmm.
and I showed them the books and they were like, "Yeah, we love this book. We're willing to put it in all our bookstores. Just get us the copies."
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, I didn't have enough I'd ran out,
Mm.
but they did say that they were in, so I do need to get my shit together.
So what I heard about the book was that it's similar to The Lion King. Is that where it takes some of its inspiration from?
No, it doesn't at all. That's the thing. It's like, um, there are elements that in the end I was like, oh, yeah, okay, I can kind of see that.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, if I'd used the thing is, if I'd used different animals,
Mm-hmm.
people wouldn't think.
Mm-hmm.
It's just because it's lions, and we have this really famous
Mm-hmm.
story, a
Mm-hmm.
movie called The Lion King, that people associate it with it.
Yeah.
But if I just changed the animals, people wouldn't have. What really it's very similar to, that I didn't realize, and it wasn't until an older person was like, "Oh, wait a minute, this is like the Wizard of Oz."
Oh no.
And then I was like, "Oh shit, yeah, this is actually quite similar to the Wizard of Oz, because it's about um this person who wants to find courage, and so goes on this journey, and then it turns out that at the end
Mm-hmm.
the object isn't real. It's actually the fact that he was willing to make that journey, and then he meets the king of the lions,
Mm-hmm.
and who tells him that, it's the courage that you were willing to make that journey.
Mm.
Yeah,
Hmm. Cool.
but I mean, which happens.
Yeah. He
Um,
said, "Don't spoil it. Don't
you
spoil
as
it. Don't spoil it."
it's a really cool. It's a book that means a lot to me, because it is a lot. It's personal in that it's my first book,
Mm-hmm.
and the story is a little bit of me
Mm.
as a person who was filled with fear, and I mean I'm still filled with so much fear,
Yeah.
but I was willing to make that first step.
Mm.
Most people who have dreams
Mm-hmm.
don't make that first,
Okay.
and I was very proud of myself that I was willing to make that first step, and I was willing to keep going until I finished my product, which was this book.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's so funny that books have saved me on so many occasions where I've been completely broke,
Mm-hmm.
um and jobless like I am now.
Yeah.
But someone just like, yeah, like 2 days ago bought an order of books and then sent me a check, um, and that keeps me going.
Yeah.
So if I didn't have those books, I wouldn't have another source of income for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I'm very grateful for my books.
Okay, what else?
And
What else have you written besides this one? How many?
I have 4 books in all that we published.
So what's the
That Project
what's
A
this?
published.
Where can I find them all in one place?
Um, I had a website, projectamedia.com.
Mm-hmm.
However, it is down at the moment.
Oh.
You can find, I guess you'd have to look for Project A Media, on Amazon, and you'll find the 3 books are Lume, Julie's Puppies, New Story Time, and ABCs of the Virgin Islands,
Mm.
which is the last book I did, ABC of the Virgin. Um,
I do not see
you
Project
can
A
find
or Project 8.
A, A as in Africa, I guess.
Project A Media.
That's not how I can
I don't see them.
uh, yeah, you'd have to probably look for them individually. When I get more organized, or when I get wealthy enough to hire someone to be organized.
What's the second one you said?
There's Julie's Puppies.
Julie's Puppies.
So JULIES, apostrophe S and puppies.
Julie's Puppies.
Yeah, it's probably like because there have been so many. Oh, there's a version.
It has.
There have been like so many books.
Yeah, I think I found it though. Nope, it says Andre Smith and
Yeah,
Tara Sham.
that one was written by So that one was written by Andre.
Okay.
As I said, I published it.
Oh, okay, cool. So I think I found all of
Yeah.
them.
Oh, sweet.
Wait, no, don't do that.
What?
One is on Google Books.
Okay, sweet. Yeah, and so they're kind of a bit scattered, and you would think they would give you a suggestion like if you found one, then the others are
Yeah.
here as well.
No, his fiance said he want to buy all of them, but you should buy all of them.
Yeah.
He gets revenue anyways.
He what?
Would you get revenue regardless of where they were bought or which ones were bought? Does it matter?
Yeah, I get revenue. I personally would prefer ABCs right now to be bought from me personally because I have the physical copies, and so the problem with Amazon is that Amazon takes up to 70% of your so like right now ABCs of the Virgin Islands is available on Kindle for $3, but I make $1 out of the $3. Yeah. While if I sell the physical copy, and that's only a digital copy. If I sell the physical copy is $7, plus $7 for shipping.
Gotcha.
So I would make $7 versus $1.
Wow.
Yeah. That's unfortunately the cost of.
Cost of it. Yeah. I feel that.
Yeah. But yeah, as I said, my books have saved me. I'm extremely grateful. And hopefully now my games, the games
$7 for shipping.
Slower. Yeah, it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous how much. Actually, it's not. So it's more advantageous to buy a bunch of books, give them out as gifts, and then buying them one at a time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Feel that.
Because Tawana, you know Tawana.
Yes.
She bought, yeah, she bought like 10 books last, and it was still only $7
Mm.
for shipping. Yeah, cause yeah, when you go to the mailbox or post office, they have these packages
Hmm.
that are like standard rate packages. So I do choose the cheapest one to make sure that both I and the person saves money. I do pick the cheapest one, but luckily it's like as long as the books can fit in the package.
Yeah.
This is
Hmm. Cool. So what's the
yeah.
hardest part about writing a
Yeah.
book?
Coming up with an idea to write.
Mm.
The hardest part about writing is honestly just writing.
Hmm.
Like for me, um, oh my God, like this. Honestly, this year has been challenging.
Yeah, definitely.
There's no doubt about it. But the past 2 years, or the past coming on 3 years, have been very challenging
Hey, Ducky.
because again, I moved
Thanks
from
for
the
stopping
Virgin
by.
Islands to to the U.S. In the Virgin Islands, I was living with my grandfather,
Hmm.
and so I didn't really have to. I had a job,
Hmm.
working for the Department of Labor,
Hmm.
but I didn't have to worry too much about rent. I paid him some money,
Hmm.
but I didn't have to worry too much about rent and stuff like that.
Someone
Unfortunately,
says your covers are
unfortunately,
awesome.
thank yeah, I put so much. That's the thing with my books. I don't and the stuff that I make personally.
Hmm.
When I make something, I don't want people to be like, "Oh, that's cute." I guess for you, an individual making this stuff. Yeah, I don't want that. I want people to look at my stuff and be like, "Holy shit, that is fucking amazing."
Hmm.
I want them to compare it to a Disney book. I
Mm.
want them to compare it to a Marvel comic, and I want to be better than those people. I don't want to be like, "Oh, it's as good as Marvel or it's as good as Disney." I want people to be like, "Oh, this is better than Marvel and better than Disney."
Hmm.
And I don't think I haven't reached there yet, but I do. That is the type of effort that
Hmm.
I put in products, where I'm like, I want people to look at it and be like, "Oh, this is a magnet like book."
They really are cool. They're eye-catching, they say. Yeah, they really catch your eye.
Yeah, thank you. Um, and well, for in terms of writing, because again, I'm writing multiple series, but the main one that started everything, Journey of Cabo,
Hmm.
I have been so we had written so with the game, right? The first year in 2012
Hmm.
is when I started this project of Journey of Cabo.
Hmm.
And the first thing was I hired one of my friends to write the script for me, the first script.
Hmm.
And so the two of us working together, it took about 6 months, but we came up with this massive, well, at the time it was 80 pages,
Uh-huh.
which is about the length of a movie, just a short movie.
Nice.
And we came up with this script that I ended up re adding stuff and readjusting it
Definitely.
because it's still my script.
Hmm.
And we can't. And then when it was finished, I had this 130-page script
Hmm.
that I absolutely loved. Um, and then I shared it to other professional writers, and I told them, tear like as much as you can, tear the story apart because I
Yeah.
want to make sure that it's the
Yeah,
best
yeah.
story ever. And based on the advice that I got, I was like, okay, I got some really fantastic advice,
Hmm.
um and ended up revamping the entire thing, scrapping
Hmm.
re So the base story is still there,
Mm-hmm.
but I was like, okay, let's me now because I didn't have the help of my friend anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, let me go back from scratch and let's make this into because I don't have the money. The a game like this is a kind of a triple A blockbuster idea,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like God of War.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and God of War costed like hundreds of millions of dollars to make, and I'm like, I don't have hundreds of millions of dollars.
Mm-hmm.
So the other approach was okay, let's try and make this into individual episodes and make it like into a comic.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been writing and writing for the past almost 10 for 8 years now.
Wow.
I had a for the last 3 years, I had a writer's block,
Uh-huh.
mainly because I've been working on the game and I've been doing other writing projects.
Mm-hmm.
Funny enough, like I remember the same year that I left the Virgin Islands,
Mm-hmm.
someone hired me to write a movie script.
Wow.
Yeah, and they actually paid me a decent amount of money too. So I was very happy with
Mm.
with that. It was enough that allowed me to be comfortable in Austin for like a year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I mean, it wasn't a whole bunch of money. It was like $1,300,
Uh-huh.
so 1,300
Mm-hmm.
to write them this movie script. So that was a really cool experience and fun, and I loved it.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I've had other writing projects that I've been doing, and other scripts. Like I've been writing a Jamaican superhero
Mm-hmm.
script as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I wrote another drama called Evangelist, which is about an atheist who gets the idea to start a church to to build money for his community. So I've had like multiple ideas, but Journey of Cabo kind of got put to the sideline a little, and I reached episode 11, which just have me kind of completely stumped. I'm almost finished the episode though,
Mm-hmm.
but for the past like literal 3 years, I've just been writing this one episode,
Yeah.
which is frustrating
Mm.
to anyone who writes.
So how do you handle a writer's
Um,
block when it hits you?
Wait 3 years? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, because it's a project that is is not a paid project, I don't have the incentive of,
Yeah.
oh,
Okay.
you
Okay.
need to finish this
Mm-hmm.
in order to get paid.
Mm-hmm.
I do get discouraged a lot, and I'm like, should I even bother continue writing this? And the voice in my head is always like, well, if you don't write it, who
Who will?
will anyone care?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, no one will care if I don't write it, so I might as well just write it, you know? Because in my head, I'm like, if I write this thing, nobody will read it anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And then voices like, well, how many people will read it if you don't write it?
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same answer.
Yeah.
So if it's the same answer, then I might as well put the effort
Mm.
to write it. And so that's what I've been doing. With the movie script, anytime I got on writer's block, that one was a tough one. But having a deadline definitely helps. Um, and when I had a writer's block, I would like go watch a movie, um, watch something related to like the scene that I was writing,
Mm-hmm.
um, to get inspiration.
Mm.
It's funny, like when I moved to Us, because I had the story in mind, and there were some scenes that I just didn't have any idea for.
Mm-hmm.
And then I moved to Austin, and for example, just having the creative energy of Austin. My cousin, luckily, he took me to a lot of really cool places, and we went to concerts and stuff like that. Austin has a every New Year's
Mm-hmm.
for the first week of the new year, they have a free concert week.
Mm.
So they have all for the entire week, every single day, they'll have like just concerts everywhere. And so and it's not just like B ranked bands. These are some like top notch quality musicians
Mm-hmm.
that are just pouring their heart out to their fans.
Yeah.
And it's one of the coolest things I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
And so seeing stuff like that gave me inspiration for like, oh, okay, this would be cool, really cool to write. And so, you write in the context of that thing that I just experienced.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But writing, oh my God, writing, because I didn't consider myself a writer either. Um,
That's actually
it's
a
funny
question that I
because
have right now. Is at what point do you think someone should consider themselves a writer?
when they've written something, as long as you've written something, you're a writer.
Hmm.
Um, when you publish it,
Uh-huh.
then you're a published writer.
So what's the difference between a writer and an author? Is there a difference?
I mean, to me, it's kind of semantics.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a book that you've published, then you are like, by semantics, you are an author.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just an author, is just like a published writer. So once you have a book that you've written
Mm-hmm.
and you've taken the time to put it together and publish it, then you're an author.
Gotcha. Cool.
But to me, it's all semantics anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Um, as long if you have a book and you've taken the time to publish it, you're a you're a professional writer and author.
Mm. Cool.
Um, yeah, most people think, oh, you need to have X, Y, Z. It's like that's all. To me, that's all elitist bullshit anyway, and I don't like elitism.
Mm-hmm.
Because growing up there are a lot of things that people told me that I couldn't do,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
as an adult now, I unfortunately as a child I believed it.
Mm-hmm.
I
You had no
believed that
choice,
I
really.
wasn't very smart. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, I believed that I never thought that I would be a writer because to me it was like, oh, that's stuff that smart people did.
Yeah.
And I didn't consider myself very smart growing up.
Mm-hmm.
I just liked drawing pictures.
Yeah.
And I didn't consider myself a very good artist either
Mm-hmm.
because my art teacher told me that I wasn't a very good artist.
Nah.
So as an adult now, I'm come to realize that all of it is bullshit anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So if you love something, just do it.
Yeah.
Because you're going to die eventually anyway. So you might as well just
Do what you love.
do the things that you love
Yeah.
doing. If it's not easy,
Mm-hmm.
it'll never be easy. But if you can just figure out a way to make it work for yourself,
Hell
then
yeah.
do it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Especially in the 21st century, where we're not in an age where you need to farm.
Mm-hmm.
You need to dedicate like half your life to farming so you can eat. We have Uber. Just if you have money, just call up an Uber to get food.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you don't have to be super smart to make money. Just have a Twitch video or have an OnlyFans. Who gives a shit?
Yeah.
I'm like, who at the end of the day,
Mm-hmm.
if you find a way to survive, don't give a shit about what other people think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That, oh my God, I can't believe she has an OnlyFans. Oh, that's so whatever, whatever. I'm like, who gives a shit? They are making money, doing what they want to do,
Mm-hmm.
um, while you're suffering, being miserable.
Mm-hmm.
Doing
Yeah, yeah,
whatever,
yeah, yeah.
working a 9 to 5 job that you fucking hate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm like, yeah, find multiple streams of income. I'll always tell everyone, but especially black people, find multiple streams of income so that you don't feel like you're obligated to
One.
one thing or
Mm-hmm,
one
mm-hmm.
company.
Okay.
Like I was working for Amazon a few months back, and unfortunately, the job was I will admit the job was killing me.
Mm-hmm,
Um, but they fired me, and it wasn't the end of the world.
mm-hmm.
I wasn't like I mean I'm still like shit I do need to figure out how to pay my rent and stuff, but I don't feel hopeless
Yeah.
because I know how to make I know how to get streams of income to my, or I can just make a note. Yeah. If push comes to shove, I can just make a note. But yeah, you're talking, yeah, with writing currently. I started writing again last week.
Mm-hmm,
Um, because again, I was like, I'm really frustrated. I'm like, before the year ends, I want to finish this one episode. This
mm-hmm,
because the problem is like for me, I have to write from start.
mm-hmm,
You have people who are like, oh, well, why not just write this other episode instead? I'm like, no, I can't
mm-hmm.
because I personally refer back to previous episodes a lot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So even with the dialogue that I write,
Mm-hmm,
when I write dialogue, a lot of times it will refer back to a previous episode. And so if the previous episode isn't written, I don't know how to refer back to it.
mm-hmm.
And so I can't write it. And so for me personally, I do have to write from start to finish. I do have another document, a book of ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I ever die before this thing's finished, someone could take my ideas document
Mm-hmm.
and do a pretty decent representation of what I want from start to finish.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so yeah, so sometimes you'll be on the road and then a really cool quote will come up in your head
Yeah,
and
yeah.
you're like, oh yeah, that would really be a cool quote to
Mm-hmm.
say. I don't know where it will fit yet, but it would be a really cool quote. Then you come up with a scene and you'll be like, oh, that would be a really cool scene.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or there'll be a problem in the story, like a plot hole that you haven't figured out yet, how to get over that plot hole,
Mm-hmm.
and then you may just randomly come up with the idea to fix that plot hole.
So it sounds like
That happens.
writing is not just what happens when you write. It happens all the time. You're always writing basically.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which is why I have an ideas folder or ideas document because you're constantly writing, but you're not necessarily constantly writing the actual
Yep. Yep. Yep.
episodes, but you're coming up with like lore and future episodes. Um, as I said, like the character in the first season, or like to me, it's one story, but it could go if people were interested into it, it could go into multiple things,
Mm-hmm.
storylines. Um, but you have the lore that needs to exist
Mm-hmm.
that people don't necessarily see, but it needs to be there because the characters function with the lore. Um, like the Zulu tribe, like for example, there's a storyline where the character meets up with this other nomadic tribe. They're traveling,
Mm-hmm.
and it turns out that their origins is Zulu.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the ways I came up with that storyline was when I was in South Africa, and I was talking about the story, and people are like, a lady I was talking to, she was like, "Oh, the Maasai tribe, has ancestry with the Zulu tribe,
Uh-huh.
and if you know where South Africa is compared to where Tanzania is, it's a long ass trip."
Yeah.
But according to legend or according to history, the Zulus did travel north, and they traveled all over. but it did eventually. Some of them did eventually settle in like Tanzania and in Kenya to have to create, not they didn't create, but it did evolve or it did change into like the Maasai tribe.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
And so in this story, you do have a storyline where he does meet up a group of Zulus who are leaving the Zulu tribe and they're moving north just for exploration,
Mm-hmm.
but they're also like leaving because they're leaving persecution, and they're leaving for whatever reason story they're leaving.
Mm.
So yeah, you come up with different inspiration from history and stuff like that. That's the cool thing is that you don't cause like Game of Thrones, for example, um coming up with the storyline for Game of Thrones, it's a really elaborate story,
Mm-hmm.
but what he does, which is genius, he draws from history.
Yeah,
And so a lot of Game of Thrones storylines are things that happened in history.
I heard that. Yeah.
And I do something kind of similar where I do like look up the interesting things that has happened in African history,
Mm-hmm.
and then I create kind of a storyline that fits the narrative that I'm trying to create,
Mm-hmm.
um, as well.
Mm. That's cool.
Yeah.
So I think I have about three more questions under the writer section, and then we can move on to your artist work.
Yeah, sure.
So there's a question to ask: are there any therapeutic benefits to making a character similar to someone that you know?
Therapeutic benefits. Well, if you, I would think if there's someone that you really hate, it can feel pretty therapeutic to write them in your story and then horrendously murder them. I personally have not done that. In most of the stuff that I do, infuse the personality of like myself
Mhm,
in some of my characters.
mhm,
It's just kind of inevitable.
definitely.
There will be even like funny enough in um when me and my friend were writing the initial story of Journey of
Mhm,
Cabo, I feel like he wrote Cabo to be a little like his own personality,
mhm,
which is very different from mine. But then, when I took over the story, I then had the villain of the story
mhm,
kind of have a little bit more of my personality
mhm.
and how he thinks and how. So I did find that interesting. That I was like, oh, the villain kind of has more of my personality, and the hero has more of his personality,
Mhm.
even though it's my story. And you would think I would make myself
The hero.
more the hero.
Mhm,
Um, But no, in gen, I don't do that personally because again, usually, when I'm writing a story, I have a, not necessarily a character, but a message in mind that
mhm,
I want to portray,
mhm.
and I don't necessarily look to like individuals I know for those messages. I just have I fit the personality of the character to the message I want to give rather than find a person that I know
Mhm. Gotcha.
fit into that.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah.
So if
Cause like for example, I can give an example if you want.
mhm,
I'm writing the Jamaican superhero story that I'm writing.
mhm,
One of the characters has the ability to turn invisible and he can create force fields. So kind of like Invisible Girl from Fantastic Four.
mhm,
And um the story he's kind of um he wants to be a hero because heroes make money,
okay.
and that's all he cares about,
Mhm.
because he grew up in a very poverty stricken.
Uh-oh. We lost him. Let's try and get him back here.
Hello.
Hello?
Can you hear
I
me?
can hear you, but I can't see you yet.
That was weird. It just like disconnected for a while. Can you say you can't see me?
No, we could hear you though.
Yeah, that is weird. How do I like I literally wasn't doing any
Try
of that.
to turn off the camera and turn on the camera.
Yeah, I'm in the setting.
Oh, just go back to the chat and try and turn off the camera and turn on the camera.
Mm. Oh, okay. Um, camera. Oh, there I
There
go.
you go.
And you can hear me, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah, that was weird.
Yeah, I
Uh,
don't know.
yeah. That if the phone doesn't want me revealing all my stories.
No spoilers.
Yeah, but I wrote this story with this guy. His personality is like that. Where he is like, I just care about money.
Mhm,
I'll do good because it's profitable, and but I'm not an evil person.
mhm,
But if probably an opportunity arose, maybe I would do something a little nefarious.
mhm,
And why I came up with that story is because or that character was because as a Jamaican, I there are a lot of um issues with poverty,
mhm,
issues the ghettos, issues with our children do get left behind, especially our poverty-stricken children do get left behind. And so I wanted to tell a story that kind of highlighted that of how um, children and people don't become evil,
mhm,
or they're not just awful because they're born awful. Circumstances create awful people.
mhm,
Um, and so the story I created kind of, and the character I created with the intention of highlighting.
mhm,
Yeah.
mhm,
So I don't just like, it's not like even though I've met people like that,
mhm.
it's not that I met a person that I had in mind and I was like, oh, I want to put you in my story.
Gotcha, gotcha. Uh,
Also, it becomes if you do that, it becomes weird when you inevitably have a sex scene.
oh man. If you could meet your characters, what do you say to them?
If I could meet my characters,
Mm-hmm.
then I would create a ridiculously rich character and be like, "Hey, can you please lend me some money because I am broke."
Oh man. What about somebody you've already created before? What would you say to them?
What would I say to them?
Yeah.
Um, well, assuming they're from that time period and stuff like that, if it was Journey of Cabo
Mm-hmm.
and it was some of the gods, I would definitely want to know a lot of the wisdom about ancient Africa, and I would strike up conversations and be like, "Hey, tell me about yourself, and why do you do this, and um, what are the cool things? What's the coolest thing that you ever created?"
So you would be a
I'll
you'd be
start.
a fanboy for your own characters.
Yeah, I would be a fanboy. I would definitely be a fanboy. I'd be like, oh, to Mbaba,
Mm-hmm.
who again is the creator of plants and beer.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be like, how do you do that? What's the coolest plant you ever made? And just stuff like that. um, and yeah, for the superhero series, um, yeah, I'd probably be a fanboy as well,
Someone
or
wants to
I would try
know
to be.
if you're gonna write any more books.
Oh yeah, no, I'll always be writing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for the ABC, like the next series of books that I want to make,
Mm-hmm.
um, is I want to make an ABCs of series.
Mm-hmm.
So right now we have ABCs of the Virgin Islands,
Mm-hmm.
I want to make it like an ABCs of pretty much every black country that I can. Um, Definitely like the next one that I plan to make would be called ABCs of African American men and women.
Mm-hmm.
That's the next one that I'm trying to put together.
Mm-hmm.
Um, where yeah, it's just men and women from
History.
I'm saying yeah from history.
Mm.
I don't want
Yeah.
right now because ABC of Virgin Islands had both had both historical and modern
Yeah.
people in
I
it.
saw it.
Um, yeah, this one I don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I don't know. I feel American. No offense, but I feel like Americans are kind of weird. And like, if I'd done a modern, if I'd included modern people for an ABCs of African American men and women,
Mm-hmm.
I would have inevitably included like Bill Cosby
Uh.
initially.
Mm-hmm.
And Bill Cosby,
It's. Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, currently doesn't have a very good reputation.
Yeah.
So it would have been very awkward.
Well, you know that you
So I'm
gotta
like,
put one in there for sure, and that's the O.
who
Letter O.
for
Mm-hmm.
I'm drawing a blank.
Obama.
For about yeah, exactly, and it would I would have to include
Mhm.
Obama.
You
Um,
kind of still have to though.
so hmm?
You kind of almost have to because he's still historical.
Oh yeah, definitely,
Mm-hmm.
definitely. So you know, picking and choosing
Mm-hmm.
who I personally consider historical
Mm-hmm.
is kind of controversial in its own
Definitely, definitely.
right.
Mm-hmm.
And Americans tend to be very one vocal and very passionate about, especially Black Americans,
Mm-hmm.
who they're very passionate about who they consider their heroes,
Mm-hmm.
and I think they should be passionate about who
Definitely.
they consider their heroes, um, and not just be told who their heroes should be,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Yep, yep, yep.
So for this book, a lot of research would have to be going into it.
Mm-hmm.
For me, like for example, there are personal biases
Mm-hmm.
that I would have making the book. Like for me, M would have to have Malcolm X and Martin Luther King.
Definitely.
Um, those are most books would not include Malcolm X in in
Yeah.
their stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Malcolm X tends to have a lot of um, non-black books.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, little stuff like that I would personally include for myself.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of, yeah, I'll always be writing books as long as I live. Um, because why not?
Yeah.
Unless I can find something more interesting than creating my own worlds,
Exactly.
then yeah, it is difficult. I will say though, it's not easy coming up with like concepts. And sometimes you feel like you've struck um what is it, lightning in a bottle? Well, hopefully
I
with the
guess.
stories it'll be lightning in a bottle.
Mm-hmm.
But because I was like, after I remember when I was writing especially initially the first script
Mm-hmm.
for Journey of Cabo, I was like, I don't think I'll ever write anything. I can't think of anything to write more or better than this.
Mm-hmm.
And even Lume, I was like, I don't think I can write anything more or better than this.
Mm-hmm.
But as the years have gone on, I have come up with other concepts that I'm like, oh, this would be cool to make also. And I now have 4 books, which I don't think I
Yeah,
would have 4 books to my name.
that's cool. Nice.
Yeah. Mm.
So where can we find your art if we want to find your art? Is there like an online
If
portfolio?
you want to find my art, I do have an online portfolio,
Mm-hmm.
and like I have a DeviantArt page.
Mm-hmm.
So I think is my DeviantArt is Cool Chris. I was on DeviantArt when DeviantArt was just coming. Um, I think they were probably around for a year when I first, maybe less than a year when I first joined them. That's how old
Mhm. Okay.
um that I am literally the cool Chris on DeviantArt. That is so true. Like now, if you try to go on any website and try and get cool Chris, they always say it's taken.
Uh-huh.
Um, but on DeviantArt, I am cool Chris. No one,
Wow.
I am the first. So yeah, on DeviantArt, I also do have a portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that is a Wix site, ecwilliams489.wixsites.com/portfolio,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the portfolio that I send out to the company
Gotcha.
and game companies and stuff. I'm like, hey, it's me.
Mm-hmm.
Please hire me. Again, one of the cool things about Austin, when I was working for Amazon and I happened to be delivering this package,
Mm-hmm.
and it happened to be the package was to what a company name again? Um, ah, God damn, Crowfall. Crowfall. They made the game. This company that made a game called Crowfall. Um, who had a huge. They published this year
Mm-hmm.
because they had a massive Kickstarter campaign.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I just happened to deliver a package to them, and I didn't know the company, but you enter this building and you just see all this really cool um artwork like on all the walls. So I was like, what the fuck is all of this? And the guy who was there, because it's during the quarantine,
Mm-hmm.
so he was the only person in the building, and he was like, oh yeah, this is a game studio. And I was like, oh shit, for real? And he was like, yeah, I'm the CEO
Mm-hmm.
of the company. And I was like, oh, that's super cool. And I was like, I'm an artist myself. And I was like, to be honest, I feel like I've kind of hit at the time, I was like, I've hit a roadblock
Mm-hmm.
where I've been applying to all these places, and I just feel like nobody responds or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'm not asking you for a job or anything, so you don't have to feel like guilty or whatever, but can you at least just look at my portfolio
Mm-hmm.
and just give me some advice? Just as a professional in the industry,
Yeah.
just look at it. And he was like, yeah, sure.
Mm-hmm.
Gave me his email address. I emailed him that same day and was like, hey, I'm the person that you met today.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually responded.
Nice.
And he looked at my portfolio and he broke down um, each individual thing that he saw, that he was like, hey, you want to maybe change this, or this is what people in my industry are looking for, and so on and
Mm-hmm.
so forth. And he didn't just give me generic advice as well. He actually gave me some really well thought out stuff that I was like, oh shit, I never thought of that. And stuff like that you can only do in Austin.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, and that's the thing, like too, like with the video game in the Virgin Islands, when I was like, oh, I'm making a game about twerking,
Mm-hmm.
most people are like, oh, why are you making a game about twerking? But in Austin, everyone's like, holy shit, that's a cool idea. And they'll start laughing and being like, oh, I have to see this thing. And
Mm-hmm.
then they'll ask for the link. They'll give advice and stuff like that. And that's the kind of energy that I like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You kind of need that
Where,
positive energy to push you to the better.
yeah, you definitely do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I feel like, yeah, because you do need um, that creative energy of people who,
Mm-hmm.
even if they don't understand something, fully,
Mm-hmm.
they'll still be like, okay, this is kind of interesting though,
Yeah.
or I can see, or I can take the time to non-judgmentally think of listen to what you have to say.
Yep. 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 So
Yeah,
when do
unfortunately, um, what?
go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was saying, unfortunately, I feel like the Virgin Islands and the Caribbean as a whole, though, do need to be a little more open-minded
Most definitely.
when it comes to the creative arts.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Um, because yeah, most people tend to look at ideas more critically.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time, you don't need criticism. You need encouragement.
At least in the early stages.
Yeah. Hmm?
At least mostly in the
Yeah,
early
yeah,
stages.
yeah. Because if you have a shitty idea,
Mm-hmm.
you'll eventually realize that you have a shitty idea and be
Mm-hmm.
like, okay, maybe I can do something else instead of this.
Yeah.
But it shouldn't be that it's because someone discouraged.
Mm-hmm.
And like my grandfather, he was so good at this, and I wish I had half of his optimism
Mm-hmm.
sometimes. Because he his saying was, um, you need shitty ideas in order to create enough manure to
Oh
nourish
my
good
gosh.
ideas.
That is so cool.
Yeah, and I was like, how the fuck did you come up with that? Yeah, he was like, yeah, you need shitty ideas to nourish to make manure to
I'm gonna write that
nourish
down,
good
man.
ideas. Yeah,
Hell yeah.
yeah. And so that's kind of how I approach a lot of things where it's like, yeah, let's at least try it, see if it works,
Mm-hmm.
um, and make adjustments as we go along. But
Everybody's
yeah,
doing that.
no, I try not, yeah, I try not to discourage people when they come up with ideas. And
Yeah.
yeah, I can like give professional insight because
Mm-hmm.
like right now, the friend that I was telling you I was giving some advice
Mm-hmm.
for the design, um, it was the design ideas. I was like, okay, well, from a marketing perspective,
Mm-hmm.
I like the designs personally, but from a marketing perspective, the icons that you're using, the iconography that you're using is a little confusing.
Mm.
And I know she's making it based on what the customer wants,
Yeah.
but hopefully she'll have the courage to be able to tell the customer this idea that you have here, the idea is fine. The logo design that you're asking for is conflict.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, if you have conflicting ideas, then you don't want to do that. You want to be as streamlined as possible.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that all comes with learning and experience and all of that.
So when did you know you could draw? How old were you?
I was drawing since I was 3 years old. That was my first. Even though funny, I remember being 3 years old
Mm-hmm.
and having drawings from or seeing drawings that I made before that I don't remember making. So my first memories that I remember having,
Mm-hmm.
um, I I became sentient, I guess. It's funny, like yeah, if you ask a question like, do you remember when you became you, when you became sentient?
Yeah.
Funny enough, most people don't remember, which is weird to
Mm-hmm.
me. I actually remember when I became sentient, my third birthday. I literally remember my first memory was my third birthday.
Mm.
And so that's when I became me. um, but I've been drawing since I was 3 years old.
Okay, cool.
And I used to draw. I remember drawing cars,
Mm-hmm.
which were some really shitty looking. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
you could at least tell they were cars because it was a box and it had the two wheels at the end.
Mm-hmm.
So at least I remember that. But I've been drawing since I was 3 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Um, when did I know that I could draw?
Mm-hmm.
I still doubt myself sometimes. But no, but I've always been like, I think I always knew I could draw. Is the question you should have asked
Mm.
is when did you know you could draw well?
Uh-huh.
That's the actual question, right?
Okay.
Because everyone can draw. It's just can they draw well?
Mm-hmm.
um, and I can draw some things well,
Mm-hmm.
and some things just aren't as like for me, mechs, robots, machinery.
Mm-hmm.
I am not good with machinery. I'm much more comfortable with natural things.
Beyond says he
So
cannot
human
draw at
body.
all.
Well, I've never seen Fion's drawings, so I don't know. But I dubbed it. I'm sure. I feel like because the thing is, I feel like if you put effort into anything that you care about,
Mm-hmm.
you'll become better at it,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So even if, because I don't consider myself musically inclined,
Mm-hmm.
I am more of a visual person.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate music, and I like I appreciate the little nuances of music,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't understand. Like my brain is like, oh, okay, this sounds good, but I'm not obsessed with it, and I'm like, I can do without it.
Yeah.
I know people who are like, oh, I have to listen to music every single day, and my brain is like, eh, it's
Yeah.
it's fine,
Yeah.
whatever. Um, but I feel like if you gave me 10,000 hours to practice,
Oh, definitely.
I could eventually become a really good musician.
Mm-hmm.
My brain probably still wouldn't understand
Yeah.
the nuances, but I could become a good musician.
Mm-hmm.
So it just takes practice. I personally don't believe that people are born naturally good at anything.
Really?
Yeah, you can be like, oh, nature versus nurture, whatever bullshit. I believe um anyone can become good at anything given enough time
Mm.
and given enough time and given enough consistent practice.
Mm. That's interesting.
Yeah, yeah. How's that in? I mean, you don't think so?
I mean,
You think
I think there are people
you
that are
think
actually born
musicians
inclined to
are
things.
chosen ones?
Not really chosen ones, but they're more inclined to a certain area of their brain per se to be like they're smart, like intelligent smart, or they can be an artist, or they can be a musician because part of their brain is more adept to that kind of thing. But I'm not saying that you're wrong.
Yeah,
Enough time, enough
but
practice will make you better at anything.
yeah, that's like saying those children who have like huge IQs and then they end up working at Kmart, which nothing's wrong with working at Kmart, but there's a lot of lost potential.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I think because society tends to put pressure, a lot of pressure on people in for arbitrary things, and
Yeah.
if people if they think that oh you're a genius, then people tend to start treating you like a genius,
Mm-hmm.
and because they start treating you like a genius, you start behaving like a genius,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But the children who are told that they aren't smart then get left behind, and because they're left behind, then they can't practice as much,
Mm-hmm.
and because they can't practice,
So there's
don't
a
perform.
medium we need to reach where we're not putting too much pressure and we're actually trying to encourage you to do your best.
Yeah, as Neil deGrasse Tyson says, um, if only we put the same energy in encouraging people who have not done well
Mm-hmm.
as we do in congratulating people who do well.
That makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because and I completely agree with him
Mm-hmm.
that we should be like, if we shouldn't look at people who have failed at a task
Mm-hmm.
as failures. We should be encouraging them.
Yeah.
If and granted, yeah, you can be like people who do well. You should give them the accolades that they deserve because then it encourages them to keep doing
Yeah.
well. But you should also want everyone to do well.
There's also a
You-
quote I heard. It's not by anybody famous, but it was saying that we don't really encourage people who do well sometimes. What we do is we tell people who haven't done well, why didn't you do this thing that this
Why didn't
person
you?
did?
Yeah, which that
It's
makes you just feel
weird.
like shit.
Yeah, it's just weird.
Caribbean, I feel like Caribbean parents do that a lot.
Definitely. Like, why you can't be like your sister?
Oh,
Like, why?
yeah, like, oh my God, yeah, that I hope if I ever have children that I don't do
I don't think you will. I think every generation breaks a piece of the old one
that.
away.
Learn a little more.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what I'm hoping that. Yeah, I learn a little more and be just encouraging. Because again, for me, I didn't do very well in school,
hmm
and it really did take a toll on my self-esteem. High school, I feel like yeah ruined a lot of my um because yeah I'm fortunate. I will say maybe I don't know if I'm fortunate, but I did go to the top school in Jamaica, the
hmm
number one school, but I was always at the bottom of my class.
mm
And because you're and in Jamaica, at least at that school,
hmm
it's not like American culture where the nerds are like bullied or whatever. Like the nerds at my school were the elite
Or that's
people. They
backwards.
were the bullies. Yeah,
Well, not really
the nerd.
backwards because my cousin went to school in Dominica and it was the same way. The smarter ones are on top.
And so they're the assholes and bullies.
hmm
And so if you weren't getting good grades, they would like tease you and all of that kind of stuff. And
hmm
the jocks in my class were also like smart people.
hmm hmm
So even if they were like, football players and stuff like that, they also got good grades.
hmm
So it was like, oh yeah, me who was neither athletic or smart,
Oh my
it was
gosh,
like,
yeah.
yeah, it was like, oh
Chopping blocks for
shit.
you.
Yeah, you have like this uphill battle.
But I think it's just
And
a
so
it's a reversal of the roles as in the culture. So in the American
yeah, no,
culture, you push sports and you push athleticism, but in the Caribbean culture, you push for getting good grades and becoming something good. So that's why it has
yeah.
that change of who's on top.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Because I mean, it's cultural. Because I think in one, and this, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do feel like a lot of American culture is centered around just warfare in general.
Mm.
Not saying that Americans are warring
Competition,
people. I'm not
competition,
saying that.
competition would be better to say.
I was not no, not competition, not competition,
No?
because then you can be sports. But if you look at the sports that like the biggest sports in America is what? Football,
hmm
right? And football is a sport about warfare, where the point of
Tactics
football is
and
to
yeah,
gain
okay, yeah, yeah.
the most
Yards.
battlefield as possible, and
hmm
you have all these warlike strategies and whatever.
hmm
If you look at the 60s, where the type of gym sports that they used to play,
hmm
which is like the very physical gym sport, because it was about like preparing yourself for the Vietnam War
hmm
and preparing yourself for World War II and
hmm
then the Korean War, and oh my god. um and so the people who are at the top are the jocks, the very physically intimidating
hmm
people in
hmm
American culture. And if you look at superheroes in America, the superheroes tend to be very like physically intimidating and very physically like strong and whatever.
Yeah,
They're also good-hearted and all of that, but in general, they're very physical people.
for the most part.
In the Caribbean, yeah, in the Caribbean, however, or success. And so, yeah, in American culture, your success is determined by dominance. Like, can you physically dominate
hmm
your personhood, the other people around you?
Yep.
Caribbean culture, which is more collective, it's more community. It tends to be, can you, your success is measured by how many people
Mhm.
can you kind of take, quote unquote, take care of. You're not necessarily taking care of them,
Mhm.
but if you have money,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
If you're wealthy,
Mhm.
then you can take care of the people underneath you, and the people underneath you are looking towards you
Mhm.
in order to do that. And in order to do that, you have to be wealthy and intellectual,
Mhm.
right? To
Yep.
be able to manage these people.
Mhm.
And I feel that kind of shift is why we have those differences in culture.
Yeah.
Um, because yeah, we're not going to war with anyone, so we don't need to be physically dominant.
Yeah.
So it's just like, well, I'll make money
Yeah.
then. Even though, like, yeah, like with every culture, like sports is valued in every culture because like people like physically good-looking people, right?
Definitely. And it kind of trickles down to where the jocks in the
Doctors,
Caribbean still
scientists, and
get
stuff like
some
that.
kind of fame per se, because they still have that
Yeah,
presence.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you're a doctor, your people are like, "Oh my God, my son's a doctor." Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, my one of my at the time best friends, yeah, he became a doctor. I became the artist, actually. So there's just like, ugh,
Beyond
that
says
doesn't
that
work.
the fastest runner in the world is Jamaican, so that means you're wrong. Checkmate.
Um, Usain Bolt would not do very good at football unless he was a runner. And one tackle on Usain Bolt, and he would be done.
He'd be shattered.
Yeah, unfortunately. Yeah, he would be shattered. But funny enough, Usain Bolt, it's when you brought Usain Bolt up, when he came back to Jamaica, because a lot of people, companies, obviously he's famous,
Hmm.
wanted now to do
Sponsorships.
commercials with
Hmm.
him, right? Give
Hmm.
him commercial deals and stuff like that. And Usain Bolt made the point of saying, if you want me, you have to include my country as well.
Hmm.
And so all the commercials, he is like, if you're going to do a commercial with me, it has to be done in Jamaica.
Hmm.
It has to be done by Jamaicans, and you have to support my Jamaican people because we need jobs. That was one of the points that he made.
He's a really
And
wholesome
so,
person, I've noticed.
yeah, he's super cool. Yeah, because I mean, Jamaicans are super cool in general.
I agree.
But yeah, I remember it's so weird. I remember growing up before he became Usain Bolt
Hmm.
that we all know. I remember seeing him on a commercial for Surge Island's Long Life Milk,
Hmm.
and he would have been maybe like 16. So because I was like um 11 at the time.
Hmm.
So he's like 5 years older than me. So he would have been like 16, and the commercial was about him being able to run because he has Surge Island Long Life Milk, and the milk made his bones strong.
Oh man.
And then yeah, it's so weird. Like fast forward like 10 years later,
Hmm.
he becomes this huge
Yeah.
phenomenon.
Hmm.
And I was like, I remember, because obviously you see this commercial and you forget about the person because he wasn't famous or anything.
Yeah.
And then you see him on the TV and you're like, wait a minute, isn't that the guy from the
The milk
commercial?
commercial?
What?
Man.
But yeah, yeah, yeah. I guess yeah, checkmate.
Someone asked if
So
you
yeah,
like
wait,
papayas.
that's a weird ass question,
Hey.
but it it's weird because I do like papayas, or we call it papa in Jamaica.
Hmm.
But I remember growing up, one of my family friends who was from the country in Jamaica,
Hmm.
and we had a papa tree, and he was very adamant. He was like, men shouldn't be eating papas. And I was like, what's wrong with eating papas? And he was like, because the chemicals in it will make you more feminine.
Mm.
And I was like, I've never heard that shit before in my life. Um, and then it turns out, yeah, actually, literally like 15 years later, we heard some scientists doing research that says chemicals that make that if you want to become more that helps you with like testosterone levels,
Hmm.
and they were like, yeah, Papa is not one.
So was he a
And I'm like,
scientist or was he just a regular person?
he's not. He's just. I mean, it's weird that Jamaicans we have a lot of weird
Oh yeah,
superstitions.
definitely. Caribbean in general.
Jamaicans just have the. I yeah, true, but I just feel like Jamaicans just take it to another level. Cause he also was like, oh, you shouldn't drink coconut water
Hmm.
with rum because coconut water goes straight to your heart, and if you drink it with rum, you'll take the rum straight to your heart as well.
Wow.
He would just come up with shit like that, and I'm like, where do you come up with this stuff? But he was just a farmer.
Mm.
But I mean, he is a damn good farmer.
Yeah.
His were his grapefruit to this day is the only grapefruit that I've ever liked. Um, because they were actually sweet.
Hmm.
Because to me, grapefruits is really
Yeah, they're
bitter
bitter. Yeah.
and sour.
Hmm.
But what he used to do, because I was like, how are yours the only one that I've ever tasted that are actually these massive grapefruits that are sweet? And he was like, oh, what you have to do is you take a bag of sugar
Hmm.
and um you put the sugar around the plant. You actually
Really?
do the sugar and then you
Hmm.
water the sugar so that the plant absorbs the brown sugar,
Wow.
and that's why his tastes so sweet. And I'm like, okay, if that's how you do it, then that's super friggin' cool.
Beyonce, you exposing the secrets, man.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm wondering if he's still alive. It's been
Oh
it's
my
been so
goodness.
long because he would have been maybe 50s, 60s when I was growing up with him.
Hmm.
Um, Uncle Curtis, one of my favorite people
Hmm.
around. I haven't seen him in what would now be like 15 plus years.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, time flies,
It
right?
does.
Yeah, but nah, yeah, Jamaicans always coming up with some anecdote or some shit. But yeah, I guess I do like papayas. I don't eat them that much though because as much as I'm like, you have no scientific backing to what you're saying. I don't want to take that risk,
Mm-mm.
so I don't eat it that
Mm.
often.
Um,
Yeah, that was
hmm.
interesting though.
I guess we could wrap up everything for the most part. So, as an artist, how do you navigate the art world? So, your portfolio, how do you find a job? How do you process things? Like, how do you do life as an artist in the art world?
In general, you kind of, because the life of an artist is very similar to the life of an entrepreneur,
Hmm.
where you really kind of have to be monitoring what is trends that are happening around you,
Hmm.
making sure that your skills are always on point,
Hmm.
because you never know when an opportunity might come up, right?
Yes.
For me, um, I remember just talking about my books and having my books, and then having long strips of not having like anything, doing anything, bringing in money, and then the governor. I remember, it wasn't the governor, but the governor's book publicist.
Hmm.
Um, their book publicist was like, "Oh yeah, you make books and you're an illustrator. Hey, can you make this book for us?"
Mm.
And I was like, it was a they were paying me $500 to make a 30-page book in 2 weeks,
Wow.
which is insane.
Mm-hmm.
Because usually, like for all my other books, it takes us 3 months
Mm-hmm.
to make of drawing all the pictures and editing it and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted us to do, and our book would have been like a 30-page book as well.
Yeah.
And they wanted me to basically do 30 illustrations in 2 weeks.
Wow.
But it's government, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you don't know when you'll get those opportunities, so you
Yep.
make sure that your skills are always on point
Mm-hmm.
and you make it work. Um, and always just being open to opportunities when they come along. You never know. Um, I will say knowing when to say no to a project too
Mm-hmm.
is also a skill that I think more people should learn how to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Having a secondary job honestly helps. Unless you're like super famous and you're making like a shit ton of money between projects,
Mm-hmm.
can be very difficult. Um, just not having something consistent because
Yeah.
bills don't care if you're an artist or not. And one thing I wish I had learned from the very beginning
Mm-hmm.
is that it's okay to have a second job. It's okay to because I thought if I wasn't if I wasn't 100% doing this one thing, which was working on my business,
Mm-hmm.
then it meant that I didn't 100% care about my business
Mm.
successful.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just as I've learned as I've grown older is that that's just not true.
Yeah.
Um, you can you can work for someone else
Mm-hmm.
and you can make sure to organize and take the time to take care of your own business.
Mm-hmm.
Because I will say this, when you're broke, you make very poor decisions.
True. You're desperate.
Um, yeah, when you don't have money, you make bad choices. And so there were times where there were projects that I should have said no to
Mm.
that I didn't say no to because I was like, I need the money.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and end up wasting a lot of time or not working on what you need to work on
Mm-hmm.
in a current moment to meet certain deadlines and things quality of things end up suffering and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
um and yeah, when you're desperate for money, yeah, you make poor decisions. So it's always good to not be afraid to have multiple sources of income,
Mm-hmm.
um have multiple jobs if you need to.
Yeah.
um as a like always have savings. Those are there you learn financial literacy. As an I feel not enough
Mm-hmm.
artists learns business.
Yeah.
I think you do need to. My degree is business. Um, and not enough artists know business. Just a basic, just like it's so weird to me. I'll have a lot of artist friends come up to me and be like, "How much should I charge for an art piece? And should I charge $5 for this?" And I'm like, "Can you live? I'm like, one, how long would it take you to make this art piece? And it's like, oh, 4 hours, and you want to charge $5 for this 4 hours of work that you put into this project? Really?
Mm-hmm.
Like artists don't think on that level. They think, oh, um, maybe I don't know. People don't value my stuff as much as I do, and it's like,
Mm.
okay, that's fine,
Yeah.
but you still need to eat. Like to me, the the basic thing is you're a human being. You need to eat food at least,
Yeah. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Uh, and so like that's how I calculate my stuff. I'm like, I'm not super famous yet,
Mm-hmm.
so at least the very basic of like minimum wage, if you're going to hire me, then at least it has to be worth more than working at McDonald's.
Yeah, yeah,
I'm like, if McDonald's currently charges $15 an hour, then my time is worth at least $15 an hour.
definitely.
And yeah, and so you need to figure out how long realistically does it take me to finish an art piece.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, you have software like Photoshop. Photoshop does record how long you've been
Yeah.
working on a
Mm-hmm.
project. So you can objectively be like, okay, it felt I've been working on this all week,
Mm-hmm.
but realistically, I've only actually been like drawing for 2 hours, right?
Gotcha.
And so if this thing took me 2 hours, um, minimum wage is $15, then the minimum I should charge
Mm-hmm.
is $30,
Yeah,
but there are also miscellaneous costs as well.
definitely.
And so you're like, okay, let's put it at $50 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of artists unfortunately don't think on that business level.
Hmm.
They just feel like, oh, I guess this is worth $5. It's like,
Yeah.
no, you can't survive on $5. Nothing there's you can maybe get a two for five at Burger King.
Yeah.
And they still charge you because of taxes. They still charge you $5.50.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So you can't even get that,
Mm-hmm.
at Burger King. So why are forcing? You should force people. And I wish more people would force people um, to value the arts more and being willing to pay for it. Yeah, and you understand, like with anything, that you can't always charge maybe what you want or what you think,
Mm-hmm.
because you do have the market that do there has to be some give and take.
Yeah.
you know I can't charge $500 for every
Oh,
project
no, no, no.
that I want,
Yeah.
but you do know that, okay, what can you survive on at least,
Mm-hmm.
and then you move from there.
So can
um
you actually like scale based on like let's say you're doing like a 2D picture like Mario with his background and things like that. But then if you want to do like a 3D picture, would you like up the scale because now it's gone from 2D to 3D? Can you add it in your pricing as well?
yeah, yeah, what I personally do is, again, see how long it takes to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And because I've been working on it for a couple, almost decades now,
Mm-hmm.
you have a sense of what something how long something made.
Mm.
So a 2D line art
Mm-hmm.
um may take 2 hours to draw, because I know how long I take to draw something.
Mm-hmm.
You'd be like, okay, that takes that amount of time to draw. If I want to add color,
Mm-hmm.
just basic colors, it may take 4 hours. If I want to add shading and lighting,
Mm-hmm.
then it may take 10 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Certain dynamic types of light, because people don't realize. So yeah, you're drawing something, but you don't just get ideas out of your head. You have to do research.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like in your case, if I want to do a wizard outfit, I don't necessarily know how to draw a wizard's outfit.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to go online. You have to look up, okay,
All of these
how does a
spoilers,
wizard
all of
look?
these spoilers, man.
No, I mean, it's the industry.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
industry.
yeah.
You have to look, if you want to draw a minotaur. I'm looking at a picture of a minotaur,
Mm-hmm.
which is a half bull head, half human.
Mm-hmm.
You have to look at, oh, how does that work?
Mm-hmm.
Does a minotaur have fur all over his
Yeah.
body?
You have to
Sometimes
draw
yes,
the
sometimes it doesn't.
connection between the horn and the skin and how does it connect together and
Exactly,
yeah, yeah.
exactly. So all of those things, you don't just know how to do them.
Mm-hmm.
You have to research.
So your time
Some
drawing also includes your time researching and your time looking things up as well.
exactly,
Okay.
yeah. Um, so like for me, if someone asked me to draw like a mech for them,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I don't naturally draw those things.
Mm-hmm.
So I have to end up usually doing more research, a little extra research.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So yeah, all of those things kind of come together when thinking of pricing and stuff like that.
So there's a comment that says, as Black people, we constantly undervalue ourselves, though, not just in the arts.
Very much so, and I feel like unfortunately, I don't want to say it's just black people, but it does feel that way at least.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if factually it is just black people,
Mm-hmm.
but it does feel as a black person, it does feel like we tend to ask for discounts from each other a lot more
Oh yeah.
than we do other people.
How do you deal with that
Um,
yourself?
I break that's and so that's why it's very important to know your process, know the business side of it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, granted, yeah, people will always ask for discounts,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll ask for price haggling and stuff, and I don't think there's any problem with that because I do it myself.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's just economics. That's
Yes.
basic
Mm-hmm.
economics. But if you can break down why you came up with the price that you came up with,
Mm-hmm.
people tend to be more open to it. So
Gotcha.
like when it came to my books, my ABCs of the Virgin Islands is $7,
Mm-hmm.
which to me is one, it's the cheapest book that I've it's in terms of price,
Yeah.
the cost
Mm-hmm.
it's the lowest cost book that I've created,
Mm-hmm.
right? People were still asking for discounts. And I'm
Wow.
like, I'm like, the book is $7.
That's on the low end of
How are
books,
you still
period.
trying to haggle me?
Yeah, that's the
You
low end of
know?
books.
Yeah. And if you went to Kmart, the cheapest book was like
Mm-hmm.
$15. And I'm like, how are you still asking me for a discount? But what I do is like, okay, um, the reason why I came up with the $7
Mm-hmm.
was because this book I had a researcher that I had to pay. I had artists that I had to pay. Um, I have the book printing company that I had to pay. In order to get this, it took us XYZ amount of time
Mm-hmm.
to put this book together. This is how much I paid my artist
Mm-hmm.
to um to do the illustrations for me. Um,
Yeah, that's
in order
Chris.
to get the book um s- at a reasonable price. Unfortunately, I had to buy 5,000 copies of this book.
Woo.
Yeah, which is its own other story. I was like, in order to get it at a reasonable price of $1, and and I wanted to make one of the objectives was to try and get it under $1,
Mm-hmm.
and I still because of shipping I couldn't quite get it under $1. So it ended up being like $1.30 per book. Um, and so the rule of thumb in business
Mm-hmm.
is you try and make at least you come up with your base price of how much the base price of it is,
Mm-hmm.
and then you times it by five,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so it was $1.30 about,
Mm-hmm.
and you times that by five, and you come up with seven.
Gotcha.
And I was like, that is why the book costs that price.
Mm.
And most people, when you don't have to go into all the details, but if you're able to kind of break it down, then people are like, okay, you didn't just come up with some figure out of your head.
Yeah.
Even though companies do that all the time, because you buy a pair of Jordans,
Yeah.
and I am still so miffed at this mentality. A pair of Jordans
Yes.
costs maybe $2 or $5 per pair.
Mm-hmm.
That's how much it costs to make. If you were to get that, go to the manufacturer,
Mm-hmm.
and if you were to go to Thailand or Indonesia or China, where a lot of it is mass produced,
Mm-hmm.
when they mass produce it, it's usually like $2 or $5 per shoe
Michael
or
Jordan
a
has entered
pair
the
of
chat right now.
Jordan. Hmm?
Michael Jordan's in the chat right
Michael,
now.
be like, kill that motherfucker.
So I have two things to tell you. Remember Matthias from back home?
Yeah,
He says
hey, is
hello.
he here?
Yeah, he says hello.
Yeah, I haven't. I thought about him recently. I haven't seen him in, well, since I left the
Mm.
Virgin Islands.
And Fionn says that you shouldn't have to explain all that for people. Tell them what it's worth. They don't be haggling with their cable company, Amazon, their bank, etc.
Yeah, they don't,
Yeah.
because we you just accept these things from people,
Mm-hmm.
but unfortunately, people will try to haggle. And like for me, there's certain things that I like try not to haggle at all. Like if I go to the market,
Mm-hmm.
um, I don't haggle with those people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I know that they physically usually want and got, even though they've haggled with me before.
Mm-hmm.
It's I have this. I was going to make a Facebook post recently. I had this when I was about 15 or 14.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we didn't have a lot of money, period.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't have. I wanted some money because it was summer coming up, and I was like, okay, how can I make some money? Um, it's just me and my mom,
Mm-hmm.
and we have all this food from our garden,
Yeah.
right? We planted a shit ton of bananas and a bunch of callaloo
Mm-hmm.
and a bunch of sweet sour sop,
Mm-hmm.
and so we in our garden we had about 14 different fruits and vegetables,
Gotcha.
right?
Uh-huh.
And so I took a huge traveling bag and I filled it up with just all the leftover, because it's just me and my mom, so we can't eat all of it on our own anyway.
Yeah.
But I took all of it, and then I took a bus and I got down to the hill, and then I went to the market and I was like, hey, we have all this food.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how much, would you pay me for, this Hana banana and stuff
Mm-hmm.
like that. And so yeah, they would be like, oh yeah, we all. It's kind of, thinking back now, it's kind of weird that me, I went to a market
Mm-hmm.
to sell the people food from my garden. That's like going to the supermarket and being like, hey, I have these cans of of food. Can you buy this kind of food from me? And they'd be like, we already have like
Oh, that's what you mean.
and that's
Mm-hmm.
what they were like. They're like, we already have a bunch of bananas. Why would we buy bananas from you
Yeah,
when
yeah.
we literally have all these bananas here?
But
Like now
is the
I'm thinking
market
back and
that
I'm
you're
like,
talking about the one where they have like all the stuff laying out and everywhere in front of them? Mm,
yeah, like
gotcha.
that. Kind of. I mean, you don't see it much in St. Thomas, but like the Agri Fest, I guess.
Ag fair.
But
Yeah.
every day, yeah.
Hmm.
I imagine Ag Fair, but every
I
day
mean, I
because
grew up
that's
with
how
that in
people.
Dominica and St. Martin, so I know about that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But it's funny. I think like one of the ladies like kind of took a little pity on me, and she's like, "Okay, I'll buy your soursop because I don't have any soursops with me
That's
right now.
cool.
I'll
That's
give you
cool.
$50 for it."
Ooh, okay.
50 Jamaican dollars. So that's like
It doesn't
at
matter
the
though.
time
It
that was
doesn't
like
really matter though. They still helped you out in the end.
they did. They actually, yeah, they did still help me out. And so like I made like maybe $350, which isn't
Wow.
a lot. It wasn't a lot of money, but
Mm-hmm.
it was like,
It's
oh,
more than
okay, I
zero.
can. Exactly, exactly. And it was like, okay, I made a little money for myself, and
Mm-hmm.
I was very um proud of that. I kind of forgot why I brought up the farming story,
Because they
but
haggled with
yeah,
you?
huh?
You said they haggled with
So
you.
I don't, yeah, but so in general, I try not to haggle like
Mm-hmm.
certain
Yeah.
because yeah, you don't. I'm thinking of the amount of effort, right?
Mm-hmm.
The amount of effort that it took me to gather up all those fruits and all those stuff.
Yep, yep.
People don't see that side.
Mm-hmm.
They just see, oh, you have a pretty book in front of you.
Yeah.
I'll whatever. I'll pay $5 for it. But
Mm-hmm.
they don't see the literal months of being up until 7 o'clock in the morning
Mm-hmm.
because you're making sure that if you have just the right details. They don't see the days that you go hungry because you literally have to take the last $100 that you have
Mm-hmm.
and pay your artist because
Mm-hmm.
it's more important that they feel comfortable working with you
Yeah.
than you eating
Mm-hmm.
literally. Um, I mean, I don't tell my artists this, but there are days where I'm like, I remember I took the last of my $100 because my artist was like, hey, unfortunately, I have an emergency. Can you give me my money like
No.
right
Yeah.
now? And I was like, all right, yeah, sure. I'll do that. Took my last $100, gave it to him. Um, and you do that because you want to make sure that your artist feels comfortable working with you, and you want to make sure that they can trust you.
Mm-hmm.
And because there were days afterwards when I didn't have money,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, hey, I don't have any money right now, but this project needs to get done. Can you help me? And they're like, yeah, hell yeah, I'll
Mm-hmm.
help you because when I was at my lowest and when I had my emergencies,
Yeah.
you helped me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I remember, because there have been days where I was like, is it what I'm doing? Is it even worth it? And I remember one time one of my artists, um, you know, we are just talking, and not to give out too much of his business, but he ended up working for like a major animation company
Mm-hmm.
who at that the previous year launched a major motion picture. They had been doing it for
Mm-hmm.
but he happened to be on one of those projects, and we're just talking, and he was like, yeah, I'm really grateful that um you were the first artist, the first person that like hired me as an artist, and I'm really grateful for that.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of got me, these opportunities. It got the ball rolling to do this as a professional artist.
Mm-hmm.
He's doing way better than me because honestly,
Mm-hmm.
he's a way better. His art is so phenomenal, which is why I use him in the first place.
Yeah.
um his art is so top notch. It's ridiculous. And I had made a point. I'd wanted to make sure that I hired like Jamaican artists.
Mm-hmm.
um for ABCs of the Virgin Islands, I did want to hire Virgin Islands artists, and I couldn't unfortunately find any that were on the level that I needed.
Mm-hmm.
So like the Virgin Islands has a lot of talented artists.
Yeah.
It just uh, not all of them. They're either like on the way high spectrum where they're like, yeah, I already have a job doing
Oh.
artwork
Yeah,
for
yeah, yeah.
VI Lottery or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
or they're talented but they don't understand the industry enough to be efficient at
Gotcha.
what they do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I don't feel like the Virgin Islanders, y'all don't know poverty. Y'all know being poor, but and I mean that's I'm being a little bit of an ass because I've worked for the Department of Labor, and there is some really unfortunate poverty levels in the Virgin Islands,
Mm-hmm.
but not on the level where you always have the government that can kind of save you.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, in Jamaica, our government just we don't have that infrastructure,
Gotcha.
you know. because I mean we don't get income from like the queen
Yeah.
or anything. Yeah. So if you like, I always found it amazing. I'm like, what? You have systems where like if you don't have a job, they'll give you money for not having a job.
Mm.
That's amazing.
So there's no
Like if you're
unemployment in
in
Jamaica?
Jamaica, not really.
Mm.
Not on the level where they'll give you unemployment benefits and stuff like that.
You're breaking up.
Jamaica,
Okay, you're back.
you just don't have a job.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want money, you have to figure out a way to get. Yeah. And so that's why a lot of Jamaicans tend to have their own independent. They'll work with someone, but they also have their own like side hustle,
Gotcha.
even if it's something like selling candy,
Mm.
which I always found kind of,
What's
yeah.
that, an ice pop?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so yeah, it's kind of but that kind of influenced, I guess, my personality
Mm-hmm.
as well, where
So
you're
do
like,
you think the government in the VI should stop relying on America for money?
repeat, your internet has kind of slowed down.
Oh,
Do I think the government in the VI needs to what?
should stop relying on America for money.
Um, well, that's going into politics now, and I'm not qualified to answer that.
Mm,
I will say I think individuals need to know how to rely on themselves
mm.
to survive.
Okay, that's
Um,
fair.
and to not look to other people to constantly provide for you.
Mm-hmm.
And we all need each other as human beings. So
Definitely.
I'm not saying that, oh, you should just be an individualist and whatever,
Mm-hmm.
but you shouldn't be forced to have to rely on someone for your own basic.
Gotcha.
Yeah, which and um in terms because people, I remember the argument, a lot of people tell me that, oh well, the Virgin Islands is such a small place, we have to rely on, you know, other places. But I'm like, we're in an age of technology
Mm-hmm.
where it doesn't matter the size of your landmass anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You have countries like Singapore is 500 square miles,
Mm-hmm.
um, and they are one of the top economies of the world,
Mm-hmm.
and they're only like 500. No, actually, they're 250 square miles.
Mm.
Um, Jamaica is 4,200 square miles to give some comparison.
Wow.
So Singapore is a tenth of the size of Jamaica, and they're one of the top economies of the world.
Mm.
So the Virgin Islands is a tenth of Singapore, but that doesn't mean that you can't come up with some modern day solution
Mm-hmm.
for your economic problem.
Gotcha, gotcha. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool, cool, cool.
Uh, what that solution is, I am just an artist. I don't know, but I do know that you can't become rich you can't depend on other people to make you rich.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
And
Mm-hmm.
if you get what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
You can't work, you can't become rich working for other people.
Mm-hmm.
You'll always only make up to a certain cap,
Yeah.
and then you'll never be more rich than your boss.
Is it ever possible in your eyes for everybody to work for themselves?
Your internet is bugging a little bit.
I think it's your internet's bugging.
Repeat that.
I was saying, do you think this?
It could be my internet as well.
I was saying, do you think it's possible for everybody to work for themselves?
Um, I I don't know.
Hmm.
I honestly, I would want to be inclined to say yes,
Hmm.
but honestly, I don't know.
Hmm.
Um, I would hope so. I would hope that because you do have different personality types. You have people who are like, oh, I'd rather the comfort of just knowing that all I have to do is just do what this person tells me to
Yeah.
do every day, and then I get my check and I go home and I do whatever.
Yeah.
And as I said, there to me, life doesn't have life isn't just one thing. You don't have to be just one thing.
Hmm.
But I do think that we have environments that encourage certain types of behavior
True.
and certain type ways of thinking.
Hmm. True.
And so some people will be like, oh, um, like why is it that black people um, aren't as economically successful as other groups of people?
Hmm.
And a lot of factors. There's so many historical factors and economic factors
Hmm.
that goes into that,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, yeah, it's not that black people don't want to be wealthy, and it's not that we don't have the mental capacity
Hmm.
to be wealthy either. It's just, as I said, there are factors that plays into that,
Hmm.
and so you could be like, well, want to work for themselves.
Hmm.
I don't know, but there are mental. I mean, there are things that work better, I think, for us
Hmm.
than others. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Um. Why? I mean, yeah. Why? Why is it that in every black neighborhood there's a Chinese restaurant and a Arabic
Corner
um
store.
corner store, and if you went to Chinese, if you went to Chinatown, you wouldn't see a black business there.
Hmm.
Like, why is that?
Yeah. They support their own.
Can you hear me though?
Somewhat. You kind of going in and
Hmm?
out. You going in and out.
Uh, yeah, I don't know. Like, you'd think being in Texas, because my cousin is always like, "Oh, we have Google Fiber," and I'm like,
Mm.
"Well, you're Google Fiber."
Oh my gosh. Well, it's been about 3 hours. I think we should call it a day.
Okay, yeah, sure. Um, Ironically, we spoke about my games, but we didn't even speak about games that much in general. So, I can always, I mean, you can see we've been talking for 3 hours. I can always talk for even more.
Oh,
So,
definitely. I would love to have you back again.
yay!
So what
Yeah,
I need
yeah,
you to do is send me a list of the links where you can find your work,
yeah. Of course.
and then
Yeah,
I'll relay that to the chat another time or put it in my Discord or something like that.
yeah. Of course,
All
of
right.
course.
Thank
I would be more than glad to.
Thanks for your
And
time.
thank you. I'll thank Theon definitely
Hmm.
for leaving a review. I do appreciate that very much.
Yeah.
Love you, Fifi.
You sound like a robot.
Um, I don't know how to do it.
All right. Thank you so
I can
much.
leave a link to the game. All right.
Peace out.
Take care of yourself
All right,
too.
man.